All right. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is David Patrick Carey with Church of the Eternal Logos. And tonight we have another open panel. This one should be a lot of fun, in which we ask, is Elon Musk a friend or a foe? Now, obviously, those of you who have been following along with the latest happenings in our society know that Elon Musk has been playing quite a pivotal role in regards to the, let's just face it, the movement of the Overton window towards the right. He's been critical of things going on in Ukraine, Russia, Israel, Gaza to some extent. We can again debate about that. So everybody who wants to join, please do. Mass immigration, George Soros, the use of petroleum, such things like that. But I did a stream before Elon Musk acquired Twitter, where I speculated that he's, maybe he's not as the superhero Iron Man figure many people wish him to believe. I don't know. I don't know him. I don't know his intentions. I don't know his heart. And God willing, he is doing everything he says he's wanting to do. Now, as you know, he just reinstated Alex Jones and Owen Schroeder in InfoWars back on X. That happened yesterday. And interesting enough, for those who follow me over there, I do not know how this happened, but in the hours after Alex Jones got reinstated on X, Lord Voldemort did give me a follow. I'm as surprised as anybody he even knows who I am. I do not know. Maybe Jay talked to him about some of my transhumanism stuff. I'm not sure, but I do appreciate it. Thank you so much, Alex Jones, for the follow. I do appreciate that. So we're going to be asking a whole lot of questions. I'm going to give you a little bit of my opinion to start out here with, and then I'm going to ask people to come on, of which the link is already in the video description. And if anybody wants to join, please do. Please do. Again, I will share that link with you guys right now. Copying, posting here. Join the stream with that link right there. You guys will be able to join. I want to get right into the open panel as soon as we can. So please, if you guys are able, join the stream right now and we can get into it. First, before we even do the open monologue, which is going to be short, again, I want to get straight to the conversation today. Please smash that like for everybody who's here. Would greatly, greatly appreciate that. Smash that like. And also want to say that if you want to support the work that we're doing over here on Church of the Eternal Logos, one of the best things you can do is become a COTEL Crew member. You can do that on YouTube, or you can go over to my website, which is more preferable. We got 3 different types of memberships over on the website. A logo subscription membership, which gives you access to videos like this. This was our last open panel. It's a little too spicy for YouTube. That's over there for members. I don't know if you guys saw, but all my videos, I got an email by one of the members today saying, hey, I can't access any of your videos. Well, apparently Rumble had some sort of cyber attack, and all my videos are embedded through a special links service that Rumble offers so that they can only be viewed on my website. And they are now back up. So anybody who's a member, all the videos on the website are now back up, and I'm going to be having 1 or 2 new ones put out this week. So please, I would greatly appreciate if anybody becomes a member over at the website. We got a fitness membership, a Logos premium membership, and that includes 2 exclusive Zoom private meetings, of which we have one this Wednesday. So if you want to be part of a like-minded community of guys around the world, you can join by becoming a premium member over at the website. Also, if anybody wants to sign up for a one-on-one session, we're almost full for this coming Wednesday, but if you'd like to sign up, you can do so with this link right here. And if you want to pay with Stripe and your credit card, just continue through the checkout here. I know it says PayPal and Venmo, but you can just go through the whole thing. And at the end, it offers a credit card option if you prefer that. And also, if anybody would like to sponsor a stream, we got 3 sponsored streams I'm beginning to work on. And so those are going to be a lot of fun as well. So if you have an idea for a sponsored stream, please sign up. I'll reach out to you, and we can then talk the nitty gritty about what the topic is that you'd like for me to cover. And in addition, please feel free to purchase something from the shop. It's getting cold. It's wintertime. Grab a sweatshirt. You can do so on my website or now on YouTube as well. You can go over to the store and purchase a sweatshirt, a beanie, T-shirts, all types of stuff, a winter coat. We got a great denim Sherpa jacket that's decked out. Check that out as well. So those are a few ways you can support the work. Also, if anybody's in the market for some Orthodox stuff, check out orthodoxdepot.com and use promo code COTEL, and you can get 10% off. It's a way to help me out, and you're able to get some great icons, incense, prayer ropes, necklaces, all types of stuff over at Orthodox Depot. It's a great Orthodox-owned company right here in the Midwest, so shout out to them for the sponsorship. Okay. Now, with all that being said, guys, let's get into a little bit of the topic today. So I am very appreciative of some of the things that Elon Musk has done and been a catalyst for in the culture, generally speaking, right now. But I want to highlight a few indiscrepancies that I'm not sure where his heart is. And I have a little bit of a video that actually comes from Greg Reese over at InfoWars that we'll check out just to get the conversation started. Okay, so I want to preface by saying maybe Elon Musk has a heart of gold and he's doing everything for the right purposes. And God willing, that will be the case. And God willing, maybe he'll even eventually become a Christian. But there's a few things that I think are really interesting. And that is, if you look at, especially I was kind of following him right around the time where he developed Solar City and Tesla, and then he created SpaceX. And so I've always kind of kept an eye on him, and I try to follow some of the major events that happen. I saw his interview with Tucker Carlson and listened to, obviously I'm familiar with some of the stuff that Lord Voldemort said. But when we look at just things, there's a few, again, I don't know the official story, but here's maybe some things to think about. He's mentioned that he grew up poor. Now, I don't know what the exact circumstances of the financial status of his family was, but we do know that his dad owned an emerald mine. There's many quotes from his dad talking about how, in fact, they were very wealthy. And his mother, May Musk, interestingly, her father owned a company called the Technocracy Institute, which was a movement that began in the 1930s that was in favor of a technocratic ruling class, essentially undermining democracy. Now, does that mean anything for our conversation today? I don't know. I'm going to leave that up to you guys and everybody who eventually comes on here to debate it out. But was he grown up poor or did he grow up wealthy? It seems to be a bit of a question mark there. I'm not sure. Next one. Some say that he claimed that he was a poor college student that was in $100,000 worth of debt. Maybe that was the case. I'm not sure. Other evidence would show that he got a full ride to the University of Penn and purchased a 10-room apartment where he and his brother had tons of parties and stuff for their friends. I don't know. It sure sounded like he wouldn't be in $100,000 worth of debt if he got a full ride, which is according to record. And I'm not sure how exactly they would afford to purchase something like that. I don't know. I've heard other claims. I've heard other people say that maybe his mother helped him out with that. I'm not sure. Of course, he first started gaining success with a company called Zip2. And that was a company in which his dad, I think he raised like $200,000 to start that company. And I think his dad gave him over 10% of the initial startup funds for that. And eventually that was acquired by Compaq. And I think he made somewhere around 17 million or something out of there. And then he created X.com. X.com was an online banking service. I think it had around 200,000 customers or so. And then X.com was acquired by Confinity, which was the company that Peter Thiel and another gentleman started that became PayPal. They acquired X.com. They moved Musk out of the CEO position, put somebody else in. It becomes PayPal. I think he then gets re-established as the CEO. And he actually had the majority ownings. I think it was maybe 17% of the company or something. And that's where he then made, I think, a little less than $200 million when they sold that. So pretty interesting. Now, he's talked about X, the current X.com, and this is partly why the naming of Twitter was rebranded, is because X.com was the initial company he started to create online banking. And he's been very open about his intentions of creating a everything app so that your banking, your social media, your identity, probably your health passport, all this stuff would be on a singular app. And he modeled this after the apps that are very popular over in China. So little interesting tidbit there. He's talked about being anti-woke, and he's given some sentiments and recent statements that would sort of substantiate that. But what's interesting is that, of course, he has a transgender daughter, I believe. So I believe it was a daughter who is now a trans boy. And even the child, the son that he has with Grimes, she has both Elon and Grimes has stated that he will be raised non-gendered. Interesting. Again, here not to cast any aspersions, but it's just an interesting thing to note. And so another thing with that is he's been, described as a very pro-capitalist, pro-free market guy, but also, Grimes, and we can't chastise somebody for somebody they have children with. Of course, he has multiple children with many different women, but we know that Grimes, at least at that time, was promoting communism and believed that the advanced artificial intelligence that Tesla, but also other companies were working on, would be able to solve the conundrums and the shortcomings of previous examples of communism established on the planet. Now, maybe that would be the case, but very interesting, because in addition to that, Elon Musk has been one of the larger people to speak out in regard to the negative and the detrimental side effects of artificial intelligence and why this is so worrisome. He did this on the Joe Rogan podcast. And what was so interesting is once you during that podcast, maybe that was like 4 years ago, it was before 2020, I believe. And so I remember I looked into that, and Tesla AI is one of the leading AI systems. Interesting. Now, X AI has a new AI system on the app called Grok. And there's been recent publications citing that Grok is actually more left than Chat GPT, which some of you guys will be familiar with. Of course, there's some program biases in there. And it appears that the same biases are present in Elon Musk Grok AI. So again, I'll leave that for you guys to settle. He's talked about absolute free speech and how free speech is essential for the preservation of our country, which I don't disagree with, especially in the circumstances we find ourselves now. However, X.com has been also very explicit that it's free speech until you violate. So it's freedom of speech, not freedom of reach. And this is an attempt that, yeah, you can post whatever you want, but you just will be siloed into your own little echo chamber. And unfortunately, this has happened to my account on X. So, as I said, the platform that I actually find the most difficulties in expressing my message and gaining followers and stuff is actually X.com. So if you go to that app and you try to search my name or you search my handle, for everybody I know, and from my understanding, it's still this way that you can't even find me on that app. Now, maybe that's a holdover from the previous Twitter. I'm not sure, but certainly something interesting to think about. So his freedom of speech, not freedom of reach, is something that's quite interesting. And of course, this is tied with the fact that another recent study was published, I believe, on Forbes just this last week, which cited that Elon Musk, or at least X.com, has complied with every government request since his acquisition. Interesting. I don't know. Well, I'm just throwing this out there for the conversation tonight. He's talked about going to Mars and terraforming Mars and how we need to be a multi-planetary species. Okay, very interesting. But one of the things that I think is curious is that he's never even sent a rocket to the moon. You think that maybe sending a rocket to the moon, as you guys are probably familiar with, that famous image from the 1960s where the moon orbited, or we're told it did, at least, the moon orbited the I'm sorry, the shuttle orbited the moon, and we saw the first, again, this is like Carl Sagan's pale blue dot lecture. You think maybe Elon would have done that just to revive some interest in such stuff, or at least just gone to the moon and put a rocket there before trying to go to Mars. I don't know, something to think about. He's talked about how he's one of the biggest proponents of saving the planet from global climate change and why this is a catastrophe. And so therefore he cited his solar city plans and of course Tesla. But as we know now that in fact electric cars take more energy out of the grid than petroleum-based vehicles. Interesting thought. He's talked about Starlink for humanity, and I believe he used it for Ukraine during the beginnings of the Ukrainian-Russian conflict. And he potentially voiced that he might help Gaza and their conflict with Israel, but of course, he was deemed an anti-Semite the same week. So the mainstream media was calling him this anti-Semite, due to highlighting maybe certain forces in the Western world that have advanced mass migration or at least been catalysts for these processes to occur. At the same time, he was going to meet with Benjamin Netanyahu and said that Starlink would not provide internet access to the West Bank or Gaza. So interesting. He's talked about how transhumanism is something bad. And yet, if you go to Neuralink, a company that he has more recent project that he's been working on, you'll find that their stated mission is to create brain-computer interfaces with artificial intelligence. Interesting. Now, I did listen to the conversation that Elon had yesterday with Alex Jones. Andrew Tate was in there. Vivek Ramaswamy was in there. And one of the things that was hammered on, which I can certainly agree with, is that we're facing a mass depopulation event, a catastrophic event for human population due to low birth rates around the world. Seems like Africa is probably a place in which they're having the most births right now, but most countries are under replacement rate, which is 2.1 children per family. So I think the United States, from the last I saw, was like 1.7, 1.6. But you have countries like Japan and South Korea that are or 0.7 or lower. I believe Japan's even lower than that. That was South Korea. So these cultures, these civilizations may not even exist into the future due to the potentials of a catastrophic depopulation. So I agree with their conversation about how Elon stated that he is pro-human, he's pro-humanity, and so on and so forth. But we'll again leave this up for conversation today. It seems like if he was worried about transhumanism and the threats of advanced artificial intelligence, I don't know if Neuralink is a way to sort of monopolize the market or, in fact, be a sort of frontier in research concerning these endeavors. Google and Chat GPT, he spoke out about how woke they are, and yet if you look up the engineers that are hired to create XAI, they actually all come from Google and or Chat GPT. So maybe these people are sympathetic to his cause and not sympathetic to the causes they were previously working on. I'm not sure, but it's something certainly to think about, the fact that he would hire those people. And of course, then he's been speaking out against aspects of globalism and has highlighted criticisms towards George Soros. Yet he also hired Linda from the World Economic Forum to chair and run X.com. So again, maybe I'm missing something here and I'm not seeing things clearly, but it's very interesting that he speaks out against Soros. He speaks out against some of the globalism. He speaks out against aspects that the elite are doing, and yet then hires people, it seems repetitively, from the same institutions which he is critical of. Now, I could be wrong. So, in regards to things that he's doing good or that I can celebrate, whatever his intention is, I do think it's good that the Overton window is shifted. It seems like we are able to voice our opinions more than ever. But I suspect maybe the reasons why he wanted to acquire Twitter, not so much for free speech, but for a mapping of global discourse. Again, I don't have any hard facts on this. This is something I just speculate. But it would make sense if you were, let's just play the conspiracy theories devil advocate here, right? So his mother and his grandfather, his grandfather on his mother's side ran a company called Technocracy Institute, which was a social movement in favor of technocracy over representative democracies. Whatever you think about democracy, that's not the argument here. But of course, Elon is tied to online banking systems with his PayPal, SpaceX, Starlink, Neuralink, Tesla, Solar City, and then he acquires Twitter. It would make sense if actually what you wanted to do was map global discourse and understanding the movements of thoughts, social movements, political opinions, that what you would do is you would allow free speech, but not freedom of reach. Therefore, you can sort of control and silo any dissenting opinions that you actually don't want to prosper, but you're able to track all of them. And you're able to see who likes what. As we saw, what was it? The Justice Department recently has like subpoenaed people who liked all of Trump's Twitter posts. Strange. Seems like that might be something you'd want to do. And as he said, he wants to turn X into the everything app where your banking, your health, your ID, your social media, your videos, your family photos, they're all in one place. So something to think about. But I'm going to leave it there for you guys. So let me just pull something up real quick. We got Catholic Tutor in. We're getting ready to do our open panel. So again, guys, feel free. Anybody who wants to join today to state your opinion, we just ask that you keep it within the confines of the TOS, obviously. But you can join the stream right here with this link. And I'd greatly appreciate that. So before we get going, though, I just want to highlight one thing of just a few things here that I think are worth noting. So Elon Musk last Halloween, this is November of 2022, went to a Halloween party with his mother, May Musk, in which he donned a uniform that he was titled the Devil's Champion. The Devil's Champion. It had 666 on it. We see a sort of head of a goat figure. Maybe, again, the head of Satan seems to be the implication there. But he paid $7,500 to wear this outfit. Interesting stuff. As I said, here is Elon Musk and Grimes saying that they will practice gender-neutral parenting with their son X. And if you listen to the conversation on X yesterday with Alex Jones and everybody, you'll hear his child X, who this is actually his name, X space AE space A-12. That's the legal name of his son with Grimes, who's being raised non-gender or gender neutral, I should say, I guess. And so you kept her referring to his son. Oh, that's my son X. Interesting. So this is, if you go to May Musk, this is Technocracy Incorporated. That was it. So this is the social movement in the United States and Canada in the 1930s, which favored technocracy as a system of government over representative democracy and concomitant partisan politics. Historians associate the movement with engineer Howard Scott's Technical Alliance and Technocracy Incorporated prior to the international factionalism that dissolved the latter organization during the Second World War. Interesting stuff. And so we're going to play this quick little video here. This is by Greg Reese, and then we will open up the panel. So please join everybody. And I will play this video while we wait for some more people to join the open panel. So check it out.
Has touted Elon Musk as pop culture has touted Elon Musk as some sort of eccentric heavyweight genius with humble beginnings. But this is demonstrably false. Elon Musk was born in South Africa, where he claims he grew up extremely poor. But his family owned an emerald mine. As a teenager, Elon would trade emeralds for cash in New York City, and his father bragged how they had so much money we couldn't even close our safe. Musk claims to have had about $100,000 of student loan debt, but he received a full scholarship to the University of Pennsylvania, where he bought a 10-bedroom frat house with his friend Adeo Reese and ran an illegal nightclub. The pop culture claim is that Elon has an IQ of 155, but this has never been tested. And after being accepted into Stanford for PhD studies, he dropped out after 2 days. After dropping out, Elon began his first business venture with his brother Kimball, Zip2, which was essentially a digital version of the Yellow Pages. The brothers received tens of thousands of dollars from their parents, and yet Elon denies this. An associate of Elon's father, Greg, involved to bring in investors, but Elon's code was no good, so they had to hire on professional coders to rewrite everything. Zip2 was then sold for $307 million to Compaq, who later shut it down without ever earning a profit. Elon made $22 million, bought a $1 million McLaren F1 supercar, which made mainstream news, before he totaled the uninsured vehicle. Musk then went on to create an online bank, X.com. He partnered with banking expert Harris Fricker, Edward Ho, and Christopher Payne. All three ended up leaving the company after accusing Elon of lying to the media about the quality of their product. Elon claims he founded PayPal. Before the company was named PayPal, it was known as Confinity. It was founded in 1998 by Peter Thiel and Max Levchin. After losing millions of dollars, Elon's X.com was bought by Confinity in a merger in 2000. All Musk contributed at Confinity was his own power struggle. He made himself CEO and pushed to change the name to X.com. The executive team successfully petitioned to fire Musk while he was away on vacation. Part of Musk's resignation agreement stipulated that all references to founders of the company will be removed from their website, allowing Elon to claim credit, which so far is all he has ever achieved. Peter Thiel then rebranded the company as PayPal, went public, and sold to eBay for $1.5 billion. Elon made $180 million from the deal, which he then invested into Tesla, SpaceX, and failed company SolarCity. Elon falsely claims to be the founder of Tesla. Tesla was founded in 2003 by Mark Tarpenning and Martin Eberhard, who developed the Tesla Roadster. When Tesla Motors began looking for venture capital, they approached Elon Musk, who had the fake credibility as PayPal's co-founder. Musk joined with the condition that he be named chairman of the board. In emails, Musk was upset that the media was not giving him credit for Tesla Motors and went after Martin Eberhard, replacing him as CEO. He then forced Eberhard out of the company and rewrote the company's history to have himself listed as an original co-founder. Martin Eberhard, the man behind the Tesla Roadster, was promised the first Roadster off the assembly line, but Musk screwed him over on that as well and sent that car into space.
You can tell it's real because it looks so fake, honestly.
So who is Elon Musk? Elon describes his father as being an evil, abusive man. His father, Errol Musk, has been accused of being a pedophile and fathered a child with his stepdaughter, who is 42 years younger than him. This spoiled, narcissistic failure, son of accused pedophile, wants to put computer chips in everyone's brain so that we can merge with artificial intelligence. His girlfriend is now bragging how this could all lead to a communist utopia. And strangely enough, former Nazi and head of NASA, Wernher von Braun, predicted a man named Elon would conquer Mars in a 1952 novel that he wrote, which is odd because NASA has partnered with Elon's SpaceX to work towards colonizing Mars. Elon Musk, like everything else in today's modern society, is a fraud, a fake genius, to you by the fake news. Here's a pro tip for dealing with the mainstream media and all of pop culture. Assume it's a lie and research everything.
Okay, so we're going to start there, guys. So I'm going to bring on our open panel. Today we got Catholic Tutor, my brother AC, and Kevin. How you guys doing? What's going on, gentlemen?
Greetings, gentlemen. Good afternoon or good evening, wherever time zone you're in.
All right. So who wants to start? What are you guys' thoughts about the topic at hand today? I know AC is going to have some intriguing insights, but Catholic Tutor or Kevin, you guys want to begin?
Yeah, I want to start with a scripture, Mark chapter 9, verse 40. Jesus says, "For the one who is not against us is for us," speaking to his disciples. Whoever isn't actively an enemy of the mission or the movement is technically our ally, and that's kind of where I would put Elon Musk. I would put him in the same camp as like Emperor Constantine. We don't really know for sure if he was a true Christian, but he was at least an ally of the gospel. And as imperfect as he was as a man and maybe his character, a lot of what he did politically and in his time did advance the cause of Jesus's movement. And Elon Musk has made many positive contributions as in terms of oral statements and many of his positions. So,
okay, Kevin, you wanna voice your opinions, brother?
Yeah, I kind of disagree. Can you hear me good?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of disagree because people can talk a good game and you know, even in the Bible it says to like judge people by their fruits, and even like Lucifer knew all the scriptures, he could say great things. But I mean, to me it seems like the guy's being set up to be some sort of antichrist follower, you know? Like I really don't trust the guy at all, especially his name too. Elon is like a weird name because L is like God and On is like a demon, you know, so he's like a demon god really. And that outfit he was wearing, and his mom is always doing really Illuminati type symbols in her all of her photos, and I don't know. And on his stream last night, I thought it was kind of funny that his call kept on dropping. It was like Elon's call dropped like 3 times, and it's like, shouldn't you have a Starlink satellite like over your house? Shouldn't you have like the best internet connection ever and like a stable connection to X? So like they were over there talking about how like this needs to be like the best platform and everybody needs to stream there. Meanwhile, like everyone's calls kept on dropping on like a pretty like important stream. Like there was a lot of you know, big names on that Twitter space, and it was just kind of funny to me that everyone's calls kept on dropping.
Yeah. Good point. So it looks like we got a little bit of different opinions between you guys. AC, can you hear me, brother?
Yep, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. You want to? What's your thoughts on everything?
Well, first of all, he wants to put a chip in your head.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I'll just say that one again. He wants to put a chip in your head. So that's kind of a non-starter for me. But so, you know, and this whole thing with Grimes being a communist and saying this is going to bring in real communism and singularity, and knowing about this dialectical history of all these ideas going back to Hegel and alchemy, which saw man and nature kind of being gilded with techne.
Right.
I mean, I don't think you can really avoid exactly how bad that really is. And what you talked about, to him always doing opposites.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's like meant to cause a kind of like aporia and force things to synthesize into something new and freezes up. Give us, I mean, Tavistock put that forward as out of like deeper metaphysical and theological dialectics and the political use of it too. It has a psychological effect too of freezing people up so we don't know what to do or say, and we'll have maladaptive responses. So I feel like he's putting himself forward almost like he's the one hope for us to have a place where we can talk, and then we go in there, but is this contributing to something good? Like I worry about that a lot. Like, should I even use Twitter? Like,
right.
Or YouTube or any of this shit?
Right. Well, and like you, I've been skeptical. Let's just say I'm skeptical, and I think it's both and. So is he, to Catholic Tutor's point, is he doing things right now that could be beneficial, i.e., namely the movement of the Overton window, whether it be things he said or the utilization of X.com? Yeah, I think that's beneficial. Again,
I agree.
But get to the larger point I think AC and Kevin are making is, if you're looking at sort of global conspiracies, the idea that one day versus another day, but the wealthiest man in the world isn't aware of, Agenda 21, globalist plans for the future. I find that hard to believe. Now, he says he's against them to some degree, but like I said, he does one thing and then does the opposite. So I think, could he be doing good things for us? Yes. But could it be a sort of another false opposition to create an environment in which people are sort of lured into a false sense of hope, or even believing that he's going to save them? That seems to make sense to me. Now, am I saying that he's doing that? Like, I don't know. I really don't know the guy's intentions. Huh?
And here's another thing. If you're a very powerful person in modernity and you subscribe to modernity's suppositions, you're going to act out some of these problems, even if you're not doing it for nefarious purposes. You're going to believe this stuff if that's how you've been educated, and this is the way the world we live in works and believes.
Right.
Like, if you're not a Christian, why would you think it's bad to use technology to become more than human?
Exactly. Well, and that's where I think it's really interesting, because it seems like Christians, and I could be wrong, but it seems like they're the ones that are the most critical of Elon, because the sort of social conservative guy that really isn't religious one way or another, you look at what they're posting on social media, the people with millions of followers or hundreds of thousands of followers, the rhetoric constantly is that Elon's saving us. Elon's the only man in the world that can do it for us. Elon, he's our hero. And it seems, I'm just skeptical of all major narratives going in both directions. So I just find that interesting. Another thing with Elon is he spoke out against the jibby jab, and yet he stated, whether he did or not, I don't know, that I believe he got it. And then he did the thing on the COOF tests, where he said he took 4, 2 are positive, 2 are negative, highlighting again the fact that the tests were potentially fraudulent in one way or another. So that leaves credence. Then it's like, people, depending on what side of the spectrum you're on, you see this as like a hope. Oh, look, he's speaking truth to power one way or another.
I think he's a lightning rod for hope, whether it's however much is intentional or not. If you want to be a big moving force too, and you're trying to lead humanity in a new direction, as he obviously thinks he is, you would play up on that too, to some degree.
And he talked. Go ahead, Catholic too. I don't mean to cut you off. Go ahead, brother.
A lot of his actions and a lot of his rhetoric seem to go contrary to the globalist elite agenda. These are unnecessary things that doesn't really. It gives him more controversy, and if he was just a globalist in hiding, and he really is taking positions against the church, why would he? The question is, why would he do these things? Why would he visit the Vatican? And why would he have a anti-abortion, anti-contraception view? Why would he even state it out loud? He said, so he said the urge to have sex and procreate has been subverted by birth control and abortion. Those two things, you do not touch that unless you're going on George Soros's boat, unless you're going on the boat of the globalist elite. So why would he do that? How does that benefit him in any way, unless he really wants to advance the cause somewhat of Jesus's message?
Well, I don't think he has any interest in advancing Jesus's message. So I definitely disagree with you there. I don't see any evidence at all where he supported Christianity. But in regards to contraception and abortion, he has been outspoken and one of the few elites that have described the collapse in population, which we're going to face in the next generation or two. So I agree with him there, but I'm not saying that everything the guy says is wrong. I think a lot of the stuff he says is truthful and has truth in it to resonate with the people that are seemingly the opposition of the globalist project. And so it would make sense then to be, if you're familiar with like problem, reaction, solution, it makes sense for one person of a sort of elite group to be on one side. I'm not saying that he is. Again, this is just speculation. None of us really know.
Yeah,
but
there's some.
Go ahead.
There's some range of that too. If you look within neoconservatism, it has someone who's obviously playing both sides, like Henry Kissinger, but then it also has people like the Koch brothers who do actually seem to believe in what they actually believed in some of the neoconservative and neoliberal ideas and thought they would be flourishing and could be a heretical form of Christianity they believed. So I think within a position too, you could have a globalist position like Elon's that leans more libertarian and is pro-life, but is still globalist, but thinks having babies is good, would like to reduce the religions to something that can be blended into this new technological ecumenism.
Elon's more than a globalist. He was talking about like populating space and stuff last night, like talking about meeting alien life forms and being like, oh, we don't want to be, crappy humans that have only been on one planet. That kind of talk is kind of crazy
to the Klingons.
Yeah. That's not very biblical to be talking about like, oh, meeting alien space gods and stuff.
Well, David Patrick Carey here did the stream on the Christian transhumanism that they've somehow worked it into their ideas that they're going to be colonizing space to evangelize other people into.
Yeah, they're going to that whole movement, the Christian transhumanism movement, it lacks any real intellectual firepower, but the people behind it try to appropriate all these different Christian ideas across traditions, but they really hammer on orthodoxy and our doctrine of theosis to talk about how these sort of technological extensions of ourselves are really what the Orthodox Church means by No, these people are ridiculous. Again, just like his talking about artificial intelligence being one of the biggest problems for humanity, and yet his stated mission goal for Neuralink is brain interfaces with advanced artificial intelligence. So that it seems to be a major contradiction there.
And that seems to be being put forth as though it is like some literal God now.
Yeah, he's like a walking duality, Elon is, which is like what they do,
Yeah, the question is, how does Elon view the world, and how does he view the future of civilization? And it doesn't seem like he wants the future of civilization to be run by a progressive communist leader on the top.
Well, didn't he have a child with a leftist progressive communist?
He's had children with 3 different women.
I know, but doesn't that at least give you a little bit of hesitancy in making the statement that you say?
It could. It's just I think he sees the future with Christendom as a huge part of advancing civilization.
So let me get your position clear, Catholic tutor. And let me bring the names up. Sorry, guys. So you believe that Elon Musk is advancing the hopes of Christendom? Is that what you believe?
That he is in favor of Christendom up to a point, and
what? Where do you get this?
The future of civilization. That the future civilization, Christendom is a huge part of it. Not that he wants everyone to live in a Christian nation, but Christianity as an influence is good for humanity as a whole, and he thinks it will move humanity forward.
Did you hear what he's said about transformer people and stuff though? That like
Yes.
if the only thing that's keeping people from like fully accepting them is like having children and stuff, he wants to be able to give the transformers uteruses so that they can have babies.
Yeah, well, the synthetic womb
So
stuff, I've done streams on that, and that's already fully functioning.
Yeah, the
So-
Pod Generation movie.
Yeah, so the idea that they can totally grow humans in synthetic wombs. The first ones I think they did were with goats, but you can find videos of synthetic wombs with human babies inside of it now. And so that's where, again, and the point that Kevin's making, Catholic tutor, I want to hear your response to that. That's where I think it's really interesting with Elon Musk, because he seems to gaslight both sides. He'll say things that are pro-progressive. He said things in favor of the trans issue, and then he says things that are critical, and yet he has a daughter who's trans, and he has a son who's non-binary. So how do you make sense of that?
The daughter who's trans wants nothing to do with him. He or she doesn't even want to speak to Elon Musk. So for me, that's a red flag that he's not a total just progressive, and he wants everyone to be progressive.
If I was the wealthiest man in the world and my ex turned my kids trans, I would spend so much time and energy trying to destroy the trans movement. I wouldn't cater to it and try to give them artificial wombs. That's just me, though.
Yeah. If you were super trans, why would your trans child deny you? Like, that wants nothing to do with you.
Well, that could be programming from his mother or one way or another. I have no idea.
It's a communist thing.
Yeah, I have no.
It's catering to that as a form of teenage rebellion now. So they're like leveraging teenage rebellion as an entry point to jam this trans shit in there too.
And it's kind of like the Jordan Peterson thing, where he's like a classic liberal,
Yes.
but the left has gone so far that people like Jordan Peterson, and he even admits this, that like he had to come on the scene because the crazy leftists that have like the biggest voice were making leftism seem just like crazy to everybody. So they needed to put these people in here to sort of weather the storm and kind of make it seem like, oh, they're conservative, right wing, but really they're just liberals from, a few years ago. And they're just speaking classical liberal points and nothing really that crazy, like, oh, big tech controls us. Like, how many documentaries has been made about that? And like, oh, there's male and female, like, duh, so it's like, you don't really need to say much to get people's, on your side,
hates him so much because he's like blowing up their spot from inside.
I just want to highlight this comment by Tapio, because this is kind of where my sentiments are leaning, is that his job is to seem as if he's right wing while moving us toward the New World Order. It's so simple, bro. It just seems like the companies he owns moves us towards an electric, smart city, grid style life. Maybe he wants more people, and maybe he is good. That's where I'm not here to definitively say this guy is pure evil, because it's ambiguous in what he does, what he says, and you can find arguments for both sides. That's why I thought this would be a fruitful open panel.
Yeah, he can. I think he also might believe in a classic liberal type of idea of checks and balances and opponent processing, where if he can help everybody thrive with their distinctions and interconnect the world, they'll somehow, through like complexity theory, make a new structure of the whole globe together. And maybe his vision of globalism leaves us some more of our individuality and our own nation.
Well, every satanic elitist isn't like a satanic elitist without being both sides of the coin. You know, there's a lot of
Exactly.
people that think Bill Gates is a good guy too because of his philanthropy. That's literally like why they have the black and white checkerboard, you know, and it's to
Anthropist.
confuse you too, you know,
Right. I
to
agree with that.
gaslight you.
Who could Jesus have been talking about in Mark 9:40? Because these are non-believers. For the one who is not against us is for us. I would include people like Jordan Peterson.
But isn't the
Emperor
context of that somebody that
Wait,
casting out
let me
demons
finish.
in his
Let me
name?
finish the list, please. I would include people in Mark 9:40, Emperor Constantine in the 3rd century.
Well, first of all, Emperor Constantine's a saint. We're Orthodox here, so we don't believe in the papacy nonsense and the Vatican and everything with Pope Frank. So I let the first one go, but I don't want to hear any disparaging about Constantine because this is an Orthodox channel. Now you can say whatever you want, but just be aware of that. But go ahead. I don't mean to cut you off. Go ahead, Catholic Tutor. Go ahead, brother.
Kevin or Catholic Tutor?
Catholic Tutor. Go ahead,
Oh,
brother.
Yeah. Mark 9:40.
Uh-huh.
Emperor Constantine, who advanced the cause of Christianity to some extent. I don't know if he was a believer or not. Jordan Peterson and Elon Musk. I would put these three gentlemen into the category of Mark 9:40. Jesus saying they are for us because they're not against us. And so, using biblical scripture, if these three gentlemen don't fall into that category, who was Jesus talking about?
Could I interject one thing, because the total context of that is the unlicensed exorcist, right? And the unlicensed exorcist would probably, in my opinion, maybe I'm getting this wrong. I'll defer to David Patrick Carey because I'm not an apologist, but he's casting out demons in Jesus's name, so he would be under his authority and acting as part of the invisible church. So there's definitely other people that are condemned by Jesus too for being outside the faith as false teachers,
Right.
and we're also warned of false teachers and people that will ruin the church. So it's a both and position where there could be alliance outside the church and good people we should respect, but we also defend it from being turned into something else and putting our faith into somebody worldly. So there's a lot of negative anti-Christian ideas here in Elon that are a threat to us. And I would say Jordan Peterson is like a fork in the road too, because there's a lot of redefining Christianity on him that could bring up an ecumenist movement that is very anti-Christ, but at the same time he's bringing a lot of people to the church too. So I'm somewhat ambiguous about him.
Right. Yeah, and I don't think that verse specifically is referring to Elon Musk or any person in the history of mankind that has done something, because God can turn all evils into good. So I think that's a little bit difficult to do sort of quote mining there and equate that verse from Mark in relationship to Elon Musk when you could easily make a claim. Now, again, I'm with AC. I think it's ambiguous. Is he an ally? Potentially so. I mean, again, I'm a big fan of him bringing on Alex Jones and InfoWars back to X. I think, again, him allowing the expansion of the Overton window, I think these are phenomenal. We're seeing, again, I think X has been a catalyst for people like, again, I'm not a huge fan of Javier Milei or Gert Wilders, but these movements, I mean, this social media platform is allowing for potentially more nationalistic movements. I don't know, but I think it's much more ambiguous, and you could easily make the case him dressing up as the devil, which he described as, what was it, the devil's champion, and Neuralink being things, and the whole X, the obsession with the letter X, being things that would be precursors to the opposite of what you're indicating. Now, again, I am not taking a strong stance one way or other. I think it's very ambiguous and causes concern, and for us to be very skeptical.
I kind of look at him the way when we were talking about Tim Ballard before you streamed on him, how there was some weird stuff about him that seemed a little bit sketchy, but it's like, at the same time, it opens the Overton window for us to address, human trafficking properly and get our voice out there and try to actually maybe do something about it and raise awareness and point out orthodoxy and point out paleo-conservative points. So I look at Elon as a chance for us to speak truth. And if he, craps all over us and betrays us all, like we were already expecting that, what can we do besides tell the truth and try to do the right thing?
Now, what do you guys think about the fact that Mae Musk, his mother, her father, ran the, let me just quote it exactly, the Technocracy Technocracy Incorporated, and was a major advocate for a technocratic overthrow of representative democracy. And this social movement got going in the 1930s. And how does that relate to the companies that he owns? Because it seems like it almost goes hand in glove with if you were to speculate that it's more of a long-term mission, and it makes sense why then his dad has funded, especially his startups. That seems to me make a little bit of sense. But what are you guys' stories there?
I can't believe they named it that. Technocracy Inc.
Yeah, it's in the movement. It's called the Technocracy movement, which began in the 1930s. So now it could just be totally incidental and nothing of importance there. And I'm not saying it is, but it's certainly interesting nonetheless. And I think Neuralink and Twitter, like I said, I believe Twitter, ultimately, why he wants to make it an everything app is to track all things. And in the same breath where he criticizes advanced artificial intelligence, he now has, he was not a co-founder, but a co-sponsor, I guess, of ChatGPT, which he has then been critical of where that is going. But then he has Tesla AI, which is one of the sort of top 5 advanced artificial intelligence. And he's just created XAI, where they created Grok. And according to some studies, it is actually left of ChatGPT and some of the
but it's
programming.
left libertarian like Elon.
Yeah.
But also, like, it's weird too how he wants to, connect everybody, bank everybody. It's like, these tribes in Africa, they're just looking for some clean water. They don't need an internet connection and a bank account. So it's very weird, like you said, how he's trying to connect the whole world, globally like that. It's like everybody needs to be tagged and traced. And the technocracy thing, I wish Alex Jones asked him about that, because Alex Jones is always talking about, the technocrats and technocracy. And
well, here's somebody
he was too busy like sucking up to him last night, it seemed like.
Shout out to Jay Dyer. God bless you, brother, and all your work. He throws in $5 and says the papist is correct. AJ claims Elon has changed his views on the trans agenda and is estranged from that child now. So that's interesting. And that gives a little bit more credence to what the Catholic tutor was saying. And Jay would know, he has a personal friendship with AJ. And then he added, but that is just what I've heard. I don't know the real story. And so, and that very well could exactly be the case. That's where I think the conversation is, it's very ambiguous. Maybe Elon is having an awakening. Again, I listened to the whole interview last night with everybody that was in there, Ramaswamy, Elon, AJ, even Andrew Tate joined. And so they were explicitly, according to Elon, he's pro-humanity, he's pro-population, he's pro more babies, which I think is great. And maybe he's gone through a sort of personal awakening, and this is him sort of trying to redeem what he's built and steer society in a correct direction, civilization in a correct direction. Maybe that is the case. It's hard to say, because, like I said, when you just analyze him, attempting to be unbiased, it feels like you can find evidence to go both directions on about every major topic.
I'm not saying that we should hate the guy, but it's just like, it seems like so many people are quick to just like worship somebody, throw all their hope into them, and think that they're going to be like our savior, like Trump, like they did with Trump and stuff like that. And it's just like, it's just not the case. Even if they are doing good things, it's like, we still need to keep an eye on them. These are also like, egomaniacs, like these types of people are very narcissistic that, make this type of a money. So you can't really throw them on the pedestal that much, because it might go to their head a little bit, Well,
he's got quite a big pedestal, according to the recent thing I looked up was like $222 billion. According to his net worth. At the same
time, it's like, does he actually have that money? Because it's like,
well, it's not liquid,
you got to go through this big thing to buy Twitter and stuff. It's like, that's just like what these people have like on paper, but it's like they need to sell their stocks and they need to do this and that.
Nobody has billions of dollars liquid. That is, nobody. Yeah, it's all within in various investments, businesses. infrastructure, stuff like that. If you look at Trump's net worth, you're not looking at how much bank money is in the bank. You're looking at all the buildings he owns and the real estate.
But also with the libertarian thing too, I'd like to speak on that as well, because Elon really doesn't seem to have a problem to take taxpayers' money from the government when, you know, he's able to for his projects and his failures.
And Dyer makes a point in regards to that verse in Mark, Catholic Tutor. Maybe you have a response. He says Mark he's referring to the people who believe but aren't amongst the apostles. It's not about unbelievers. So, and I don't have my Orthodox study books actually next to my bed right now, so I don't have it on me. Potentially look at some footnotes there, but yeah, I just wanted to throw that out. So, Clear Vision, what's up, brother? Can you hear me?
Hey, how's it going, man? Yeah, I think we first need to look at what happened on one of his streams. I think I forgot who he was streaming with, but we saw it in the video earlier. He was smoking weed, and obviously, in a lot of states, that's still a Schedule I drug. That's still classified as that. And not only that, he has a responsibility not to promote it, because not everyone can smoke or ingest marijuana, because in my personal life, I've seen people have negative effects from it, psychotic breaks, if you will. So I think he was I know he apologized for this and many other things, and he's very reactive a lot of the time. He's always apologizing after the media, shines a light on something. And I think that's a problem too, because he doesn't stand by what he says. But I really think it's a big problem, him smoking publicly like that. I think it's a big problem.
Yeah, but that
was probably the least thing I was concerned about regarding everything we discussed. Regards to Neuralink, advanced artificial intelligence, online banking systems, the Everything app. But okay.
Yeah, that doesn't really say much about if he's trying to rule over us. If he's trying to join the global elitist agenda, and he wants to be in the top 0.1% of those who rule over everybody, and to disintegrate religion and to create this utopia. It doesn't really say much. It's just a flaw of his character.
No, because if people imitate what he's doing, they could have potential lifelong consequences. So I don't see it as something small. You know what I mean? I think that
I don't think Elon's the biggest role model for people, but I get your point nonetheless. We had some super chats that came in from BMX 1966, throws in $5. Thank you so much, BMX 1966, for all the support, brother. He throws in $5, no comment. Then shout out to our brother Gary, throws in a generous $50 super chat, no comment either. Thank you so much, Gary, for that. Really appreciate you, brother. And we had another one from our Tinfoil Hat Girl, another continual supporter. Thank you so much for Tinfoil Hat Girl. Throws in $5 and says, Elon Musk, Alex Jones, Tucker Carlson, Love Fest to me is a representation of controlled opposition. I have always been skeptical of all of them. I feel they are out for themselves. Okay. Well, thank you for that, Tinfoil Hat Girl. Appreciate the super chat. And I'm not sure. I actually feel like Alex and Tucker are less worrisome than Elon myself, but I get your point nonetheless. But I appreciate that. Thanks for all the support, Tinfoil Hat Girl. God bless you. And Blue Skittle throws in $5, no comment over on the Dono chat. So thank you very much, Blue Skittle. And so I think
everyone's out for themselves. I mean,
go ahead.
At the end of the day, the world can be seen like a sinking ship. We all have a pessimistic view of the future, most of us. And everyone's basically out for themselves, but who wants to save the most amount of people with them? And that's why I would put Alex Jones and Tucker Carlson. They want to save themselves first, but they want to save as many people as possible instead of rule over them.
What's up, Dan? What's going on, man?
Hey, what's up? Good topic tonight. I was just texting with a good friend about this the last couple days, just with how much Alex and Elon have been in the news the last couple days. It's on, like, my friend is kind of in favor of Elon. He thinks that he's doing a lot of good stuff, even though he's got some mixed feelings.
Mm-hmm.
I can't understand that, just to be honest. I mean, the guy, there's so many reasons to be sketched out by him, if you ask me. I mean, even way worse than that. I mean, at a bare minimum, to be suspicious of him, I feel like you have to overlook a whole lot and give him the benefit of the doubt in so many different ways that I just can't. I can understand appreciating a lot of what he's done. I think that that's pretty sensible, but to assume that he's working for the greater good overall just seems I don't know. I don't see how you can get there with just all of his history and especially, I mean, mainly the Neuralink thing. That's just pretty dark. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it goes both ways. I think certainly since he's acquired Twitter, he's done and said things out publicly that I think have been beneficial, and he's certainly moving the Overton window, which I think is beneficial. But I am generally leery and skeptical. But you can't deny that he has done things in the last few years that would at least insinuate to an observer that he's sort of helping the movement of freedom or whatnot, however you want to frame it. But yeah, I think there's real reasons when you start to look at his companies and history and previous statements. But, you know, as Dyer highlighted in his conversation with AJ, Alex Jones, that he's changed his views about sort of the trans agenda. Maybe that's the case. So it's hard to say.
Yeah.
This world has just gotten so sick that it doesn't take much, you know.
That's true. It doesn't take much to be a hero right now. That's a great point. Lou throws in $2 and says, "Is space fake and gray? If so, Elon is a foe." So, and that is one of the things about his mission to Mars. Like I said, it doesn't. Maybe I'm wrong here, and I'm totally out of context. That's very possible. But it seems like he would send one of his SpaceX rockets around the moon just to show us, right? Doesn't that seem like that would make sense? At least before then this mission to Mars.
No, he's just going to skip all that and go straight to Mars.
That's the rhetoric, though. That's the narrative. That doesn't seem to make any sense to me.
It doesn't. It seems like it doesn't really need to make sense to people because they're so fascinated by the idea. I don't know.
People worship science.
No.
Yeah, people worship science, and the idols are the rockets, and the sacrament is the $60 million a day we give NASA.
If he was part of the leftist agenda, why even entertain Alex Jones and Tucker Carlson? Why not just become a Scientologist? Why speak out against birth control? What does he have to gain from any of that? It's so we don't. I agree. We can't know for sure. This is speculation. None of this counts as conclusive evidence. But you have to ask, why even entertain someone like Alex Jones if he's going? What benefit does he gain at all if he isn't really for humanity?
Well, he would benefit by getting the supporters of those individuals behind him. That's an easy answer to why he would do such. Now, I'm not saying that's why he did it. Like I'm saying, maybe he's had a change of heart and he's fighting back against many of the people that he's familiar with in regards to some of these globalist movements. I mean, but for example, this one, he was speaking out against George Soros, and that same week he hired Linda from the World Economic Forum to run X. Now, that maybe they were friends, and maybe Linda's actually more on the side of free speech and side with Elon. Maybe that's the case. Like I said, I don't know. But isn't that interesting nonetheless? Doesn't that at least raise your eyebrows?
A lot of things can moving forward one way or the other. I know he's friendly with the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. So he has businesses over there. That could be either a red flag, or that can just be a way of him trying to deter nuclear war. And he doesn't want. He doesn't want the world to.
Elon Musk is deterring nuclear war by having a Tesla factory in southern China.
The more that America does business with China. The friendlier we get with them, the less likely we are to go to nuclear war. We're better off using diplomacy.
Well, I mean, I get your point. I don't think China is the leading threat, at least in regards to the official rhetoric concerning nuclear outbreak. I think it's Russia that's according to the official threat. I'm not sure how many China has, but China is facing a catastrophic depopulation in regards to that one-child policy, and while they just do not have enough to replenish their civilization, that's a general trend with all of East Asia. But anyways, I'll leave it there. Kashmir, what's going on, brother?
Hey, how's it going?
What's going on, man?
Doing pretty well.
Hey, so what's your thoughts on the topic?
I think that it's that Elon Musk is a very mixed figure. I agree with many of the criticisms here, and especially as like a religious person, you should be cautious of him. But you should sort of weigh what's going on. So I used to be I'll start with Alex Jones, I guess, because he's a more clear figure. I used to think that he was controlled opposition, who basically did this thing where he spread a lot of good information alongside a lot of bad information, and by mixing them together, he would discredit both sort of streams. However, my opinion started changing because I also believe in actions.
Okay.
So he was one of the only ones during 2015, 2016, who was paying people to go out and shoot crowds and videograph all of the protests that were happening. And he did that throughout. He did that without really, I think, directly profiting from it. I don't think it's like a profitable side of his business, right? He has an audience by then. He doesn't need to do it. But that did a lot of good because it showed people that there is a power behind, Trump, that there are dissidents that walk out into the streets, protests that were not shown in mainstream media. So that was the first time I said, okay, this person is valuable. The other thing that's interesting with him is all the lawsuits against him. So those lawsuits are way too harsh and way too destructive if he was just controlled opposition. If he was, let's say, put in prison, that could actually sort of bridge that gap of believability, because having somebody in prison who is like an opposition leader and then releasing them makes them more popular, and so sort of it's like a common controlled opposition theme. You put them in prison, you release them, they become hyper popular. But with him, it seems they're trying to financially ruin him, and that doesn't really mesh with that theory. So I think
could those lawsuits also be spectacles? I just play devil's advocate.
Sure.
Couldn't those lawsuits be spectacles in and of themselves, just like the mainstream media? The same week in which he's labeled an anti-Semite over and over and over, he's in Israel with Benjamin Netanyahu. It seems like that's perfect, right? So you get the narrative of the system to paint one thing, yet he's actually with the prime minister of Israel doing something totally else. Now, I don't know. I'm just saying, isn't that could be a possibility within the framework that you just laid out, could it not?
It could be a possibility, but there is another interesting thing, which is how the controllers work. So they think that they're very smart, and they think that they're doing smart things, and then it backfires on them because their agents are double agents, and their ship is full of rot. I think people have this image of the regime as all powerful and very wise. But how can they get that wise? How can they get that powerful? How can they get that smart if there's no selective mechanism inside of them? There's no like market competition from a libertarian perspective, but there's no power competition either. It's not like the mightiest warrior ends up in the Biden regime. It's actually the weakest, the most sort of the appeaser, the conformist that gets in. And those tend to be midwits. So I don't think that they are smart enough to do like 3D, 4D chess. And that's why I think that even if they're trying to use somebody like Alex Jones as controlled opposition, so far he's discrediting them very heavily. And so, I tend to believe. Now, with Elon Musk, I think that he was totally captured by the sort of the progressives. I know that he read very progressive books. I used to read those books as well. Like 10 years ago, I read Ian M. Banks's entire, series of the Culture series, and I didn't notice all of the progressive stuff that was in there. These were really good books, but they also had like the most extreme transhumanism, change your body, trans agenda. Everything was in that book as well, and I know that affected Elon Musk personally, because he named his children out of some ideas in that book. He named his starships and his landers from that book. His ships. He's like not just a reader. He's a major fan, but also he notices that his children are rejecting him and are within a cult, and that hurt him personally. And I believe that flipped the switch. That what he was reading is fantasy, but reality is that we don't have that technology, and the reality is that these are damaged people, and his family got directly damaged and burned by this. So I don't think that that makes him directly control the position. However, also at the same time, nobody that powerful doesn't have people approaching them and telling them, and doesn't do like horse trading. Nobody that powerful can be allowed to exist without there is a department of the Central Intelligence Agency that uses his satellites for their own desires, but I think they're separate from some of the other departments that say that he's opposing. So I don't think it's all like uniform, right? So there's like people that want to have him as an asset, and so they're allowing him to do a lot of culturally damaging things, because they really don't care about the culturally damaging things. They care about the power that he gives them.
Okay.
So if you view him that way, and you view the power as sort of like a slippery slope where they don't exactly know what they're doing, you can have such figures as allies, meaning as like they're doing useful things. Now, if you mark the most useful thing he did, the Twitter thing, the liberation of quote-unquote liberation of Twitter, even though it's not complete and not to the extent that I would personally like.
Right. That's actually the platform I'm shadow banned on the most, is X.
Yes. We're still shadow banned, but there's a lot of people who are not who are legit. So
I agree.
think
No, that was my point in the
something
opening.
there.
Is that I think his greatest benefit is that he shifted the Overton window, and he is bringing people on. But we have a question right there. I want to first bring up the beloved Jamie Hanshaw. Shout out to you, Jamie. God bless you and Jay. Wish you guys the best. She throws in $4.99 and says, I did a show last year on YouTube about Elon and Grimes called Elon Musk Slippery Sorcery, and one on Rockfin about Twitter/X called Rated XO. And so, guys, go check those out. Jamie her and Jay do phenomenal work. And I agree. I think, slippery sorcery, I think there's a lot there. And again, just last Halloween, dressing up as Satan's biggest champion, really makes your head spin, or at least ask some serious questions. So thank you so much, Jamie, for that. And our beloved Slowboy Whiteboard, a member for 9 months. Thank you so much, Kristen. She says, donations through YouTube still 30%. Please consider Dono Chat and Streamlabs links. Thank you so much, Kristen. I really appreciate that. And over here on YouTube, Tag Hua throws in $10 and says, it's sus that Elon does these unbans on a case-by-case basis for the sake of spectacle, instead of just delivering on his promise of amnesty. He also evaded this question on the space. I do remember where he sort of evade that question a little bit. And to some degree, this is what I was thinking when I was listening to it last night. If you just unbanned everybody on Twitter, maybe there are legitimate freaks, PDFs, if you guys know what I'm talking about, things that legitimately should be banned. And so you can't just mass unban everybody. But I don't know. I mean, he did sort of give lip service that was what he was initially going to do. And I know there's multiple people that are still left off the platform that have been banned. So I think that's an interesting another angle. So thank you so much, Tag Hua, for that $10 super chat. You guys have any thoughts on those?
Yeah, that was a really good point, how he's making a spectacle out of each one. He also said something like it takes for the bigger accounts, it takes like more time. He has to.
Yeah, he mentioned that last night. It like he's,
code.
I guess all the internal connections. He was saying it takes hours for it to fully come on board.
Yeah. And what is it? Cashmere. I like to push back a tiny bit. I do like Alex Jones. I think he's funny and I do get a lot of information out of him. But the court case to me was kind of suspect because of just like the sheer amount, the 2 trillion. It kind of puts a lot of fear into people between that and what happened in January, like locking people up, taking away people's bank accounts. People are going to be scared to death to speak out. And now you got Nikki Haley saying she wants the whole internet to be,
Yeah,
not anonymous.
Yeah, exactly.
And also, if you looked up his court cases, he declared bankruptcy and they settled on 85 million. So that's a far cry from the 2 trillion. And you also have to look at like, was Alex Jones charged? Is it InfoWars LLC? Like, who's responsible for this money? Because businesses have protections on them. So.
Nikki Haley is controlled by lobbyists, and we can tell which politicians are bots.
Well, why would she, again, just to use your own logic against you, Catholic tutor? Well, why would Nikki Haley run as a conservative if she's really in favor of all these other things, right? That's your line of thinking in regards to Elon. I'm agreeing with you, but my point is just to show that the logic you laid out in regard to Elon could easily be made against Nikki Haley.
It could. My main principle.
She's a classic neocon.
Yeah. My main principle or argument is that when people do things and they're deceiving the public, it has to be in their own interests. I just don't see how it's in Elon Musk's best interest to associate in any way with Alex Jones. And so my point is, well, that was my main point from earlier. But right now, it's who buys Elon Musk? Who really controls Elon Musk? What lobby group? Who can really put a lid on Elon Musk?
No, I agree with you. I think that's what makes it more difficult to kind of put your finger on and what are his overall intentions. And just to reiterate, again, since he's acquired Twitter, I think it's become more ambiguous because he's constantly doing things that would make you think a different thing versus the corpus of his entire business career, which would make you lean towards another direction.
Or maybe he doesn't care. Maybe this whole thing is a joke and he's playing both sides.
Well, that's what
it could be, but there's a different fact pattern though. He I think he did release the source code, and there are now independent researchers that keep publishing what they discover from just testing and experimenting with it. And so, like very recently, I haven't delved into this at all yet. I just don't have time the past 3 months. But I noticed that there is like a contest between different people for credit on who discovered how the various rating algorithms within his AI system work. And his AI system is the thing that he plans to replace all the woke moderators with. So the fact that people have access to it and can research it to that extent is interesting. It's a generally better sign than how Twitter used to be run.
Agreed.
Yes,
agreed.
I think your point is true. A blanket ad ban is difficult to do, but just the fact that I can still read, every member of the dissident right, that is like every intellectual in dissident right, including people that say some very extreme things. They just don't use extreme words to say them. Even if they're shadow banned, the fact that they're still on the platform is shocking, like compared to how it was right before that. Like all of those would be gone. And in fact, in order to access them, I used to have to go to, completely off-brand platforms to listen to these people. So yes, they have to self-censor a little bit, but I still get their main message and links to their stuff, even though it's not like it's not going viral like it could be. So I agree with you there. There is shadow banning for sure still. Those
you can't even
place.
find me unless you already follow me or follow somebody who follows me. So, But again, that could be a holdover from the previous, or it could be highlighting again what freedom of speech, but not freedom of reach really means. That certain accounts that were already flagged already are sort of minorly siloed on the platform of X.
Or
I
if
want
you're
to
just a
say,
Catholic, you're Orthodox, and Elon Musk went to the Vatican. I'm just kidding. It's a joke.
Okay.
I was going to throw a couple things out there that I'm going to cut off. If you ask me, this would be mostly speculation, but not, based on nothing. But I don't think I'm alone in saying that I don't think that he makes that many of his own decisions, for one. I think he's got backers. Of course, he has, special
So what
interest
makes you
groups
say
involved.
that?
He just, it's first of all, it's because it's impossible for this guy to exist as he's portrayed. Someone that runs 5 multi-billion-dollar companies and makes managerial decisions for them on a daily basis, and also has time to hang out on Twitter and watch Naked and Afraid. That just doesn't add up or
Yeah, he
make
did
any
make a
sense.
comment about that in the Twitter.
That doesn't make any sense. That's just literally impossible. I mean, and plus,
Well,
if he was actually that smart to where he was running all these companies, he would not be smoking weed and watching Naked and Afraid. That doesn't make any sense. I don't, and there's the way that he talks. I don't know. He doesn't seem as smart as he's portrayed to me. Not that he's an idiot, but he doesn't. I've never thought of him as some super genius that knows how to do advanced coding and has any say in how an electric car is built. I mean, maybe he does. I could be wrong, but I just don't think so. And then the other thing, I
Dan,
think that
he's smart because he looks so stupid.
yeah,
What was
exactly.
that, Kevin?
I
didn't
said,
hear it.
he's smart because he looks so stupid.
Oh, you're making a comment on the point he made about the Tesla Roadster in space.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got you.
I think he's being erected as a figurehead to the pendulum swinging back hard to the right, the fake reactionary right wing tyrannical sort of movement that's going to be building up more and more. I don't know if I wouldn't really call it controlled opposition because it's something else other than that. I mean, I guess that's an element of it, but I think that he's using people like Alex. I think he's told to use people like Alex Jones.
So you think he's using Alex Jones? How so there?
I think that he's trying to pull the InfoWars army into making an alliance with this secular humanist, transhumanist movement that is.
Well, I don't. Do you think Alex would go along with that? I mean, that seems to be one of the lines he won't cross is the transhumanism stuff.
Yeah, I would really hope so, because like some of these other guys were saying, I've listened to Alex for like 15 years, and I do like that guy. I do think that he's probably pretty genuine, and but at the same time, I mean, he does do I don't know, he does a lot of questionable things too. I think that he's pretty legit and that he actually believes what he says, but I don't know. I don't have that much faith.
Whatever my disagreements with Alex are, because I have some, but he seems to be pretty genuine.
Yeah.
So, and I know he's very appreciative of Elon allowing him to get his platform back. Now he's back on a mainstream social media platform. So maybe so. That's what I was pointing out to Catholic Tutor. He says, how would he benefit? Well, he would benefit from the populist movement that is sort of behind Trump and Alex Jones and the sort of America First movement. I mean, it's hard not to see how that movement is now shifted and is in a way behind Elon Musk. And maybe he has good intentions. Yeah. And Jay said, Alex was legit destroyed in court. It's not fake. So I think, what was it? Somebody made a comment about that potentially being fake. Was it Casimir?
No, I said that I wanted to think about whether it can be, and then could compare it to other things. I think if you compare it to the way dissidents were treated in Russia, then it's almost a 1-to-1. They crush them with the courts, and the judgments has to be shocking. It is shocking so that people stop doing whatever they're doing. So I agree with Kevin's earlier point that even if the actual punishment, somebody eventually gets clemency, it has to be 10 years or 10 years in the gulag or $2 billion, whatever ridiculous thing. Just so you have to worry, well, I don't have spare millions of dollars for lawyers, so I should keep my mouth shut. Well, and I think it is effective.
And I would refer my opinion to Jay's opinion because he's has a personal relationship with Alex. So I suspected that lawsuit, I never thought it was fake. I suspected it was real because they were trying to put him out of business and silence him. Because look at the amount of clicks InfoWars still gets, and it's been on no mainstream platform for years now, since 2018. And you have to go to the website. I go check it out on band.video to see if some of the latest happenings. So it sounds like, and I agree with Jay, I mean, Alex got destroyed, and I think this is a huge victory for him. Now, what are the intentions of Elon? I think there could be many, and maybe he's turned around, like Jay highlighted with the trans agenda, and now he's kind of seen through that one. And maybe he's coming around. We'll find out. It's going to become more and more clear as we move forward, and it seems like it's almost the spiritual reality since 2020, is everything is becoming more and more clear, and you can see like what side people are, and even with Trump and the jibby jab and Operation Warp Speed, so there's no facade really amongst most of these highly influential pop cultural figures.
And you have to remember though that people are generally deeply flawed.
Agreed.
Yeah,
I definitely.
And with I want to talk about what Dan said about how you run you manage a business. If you're a really, really good businessman, then what you do is, and I believe this is what Elon did with every single one of his industries. Also, he's very similar in that character, in the way he operates, to a previous superstar of the tech world, which was Steve Jobs. So Steve Jobs was #1 a salesman and a fan of technology. And what he did is he found the best people, the best artists, and he provided them with cover.
And we agree, you just brought up autism. When somebody was talking about his inability to talk, I think somebody referenced that. It could be he is autistic. Maybe we could just say maybe Elon is autistic. That's why it's hard for him to just.
But I'm saying trust me, he's less autistic than his rocket guy or his battery guy, or some of his management, and you can see that because of the style of management, which is he poaches the best people from other companies and then makes their dreams come true. Like you want to build a battery factory, go do it, and I'll provide the finances and the cover. He did the same thing with rocketry, whether you believe in it or not. He hired some of the best people, including people from government agencies, and with every single company it's like that. And then he pretends like he knows about it, or I guess he does know because he gets presentations, but I don't think he needs to run the day-to-day. And Steve Jobs did the very same thing. I don't think he ran the day-to-day. I don't think he knew how to assemble a computer from parts. Some of his engineers knew. Some of his engineers would do prototyping.
So, Casimir, what's the point you're making? I mean, I agree with you. I'm just confused on what.
Oh, sorry. Fine. Maybe I'm reinforcing it too much.
I mean, what is the point you're making? Yeah, Elon Musk doesn't build everything in his companies. Agreed. What?
No, I think that part is not the unrealistic part, but is part of his business controlled? I think anything related to space is definitely, he gets government funding.
Well, that's where, and I'll highlight Kyrie Runte. I don't know if he's funded by DARPA, but certainly if you guys remember when we were on lockdown in 2020, one of the only activities that were going on was SpaceX was allowed to shoot, I forget how many thousands of satellites during that entire lockdown period, which was backed by DARPA and let's just say the military industrial complex, generally speaking. So are they, again, I'm not sure. I'm not here to cast aspersion on what the purpose of it was, but it's certainly a point that people are making in the chat.
It's a really good point. And there's not just DARPA, there's like plain government funding, like launching missions for
well,
NASA.
Tesla,
if you look at these,
they put so much money into Tesla, right? And don't they have like government contracts where wasn't Nancy Pelosi one of the people, and Biden, when Biden got in office, they bought a bunch of Tesla stock, and then they tried to pass this new electric vehicle thing, and the stock rose, and they all made a bunch of money.
Yeah, they did that, but I think if you look at the budget for the missile stuff, that's where the big government bucks are. Tesla generally profits from hipsters buying Teslas. That's where, you know, and from the stock price getting inflated. But if you look at where the money came in, serious money was when he launched his first big rocket, his like triple booster Falcon, and that started taking government satellites up to space. If you look at the chart of the #1 space delivery suppliers, again, however, whatever you believe on it, the money is going there for sure, and that like it's in the billions of dollars, because he's like the contractor for the government in that space, and he cannot do that without having controls. Like if DARPA calls him and tells him, you know, deplatform somebody, he will. They just probably
that's where the article that came out. The article that came out last week on Forbes says that X has complied with every government request since he has taken over the company, contrary to the general notion people have. I want to bring in my brother Ivan here in a second. We had a super chat. We got 2 super chats. One came in over on the Streamlabs. Shout out to Tinfoil Hat Girl. She throws in another $5. Thank you so much, sister. She says, if you want to know about Elon, look into his development in the mod RNA in Carbine 911, which is an Israeli investment with Epstein. Put it in the track trace police state. Look up Gabriel. Very interesting. And that is an interesting point about his relationship with Epstein and Ghislaine. You can, who's the woman who did the great book on Epstein? She was just on all over the social media. Whitney, I forget her last name. I'll pull it up here in a second. But anyways, Whitney talked about all the connections between Whitney Webb. Thank you, Tag Hua. Whitney Webb, she highlighted that Elon had a very interesting relationship with Epstein and some of his clientele. So now whether he is in on that stuff, I don't know. I'm not speculating that. Yeah, Whitney Webb. But it's very interesting that there's multiple connections between Elon and the whole Epstein circle. So thank you so much, Tinfoil Hat Girl. And then the last one, then I want Ivan to voice his opinion. Tag Hua throws in $5 and says, Elon, like Trump, constantly engages in mixed messaging. Some believe this to be a necessary evil, but did it really help Trump achieve anything? Good point. Very good point. Ivan, what's your thoughts, man?
Definitely. I think that Elon is a transhumanist, and even if you listen to him,
I agree with that.
For 5 minutes, he's gonna start talking about how he wants to make Neuralink a direct connection to your brain, so you become part of the Borg. So he's definitely a foe, but let's have some hope. Maybe he can change his mind. I think he's flirted before with political ideology. Right now, he takes a more classical liberal stance. But I think that his
libertarian,
yeah. But I think that his attempt to like make Twitter into something more powerful, let's say, is for the reasons of like getting in touch with people's minds and modeling, let's say, what people think. So now he has access to one of the biggest networks in the world, so he can use AI to train on that.
And that's what I firmly believe he's doing behind, whether he wants full freedom of speech or not. I believe he's totally mapping global discourse in all different languages right now using advanced artificial intelligence. I don't see how that's not something that they're doing.
Yeah.
You guys have any thoughts on that? Go ahead, Ivan.
He's kind of an antichrist figure. And I think let's say, okay, he's weird looking, but let's say he's pretty young still, and he has a lot of money. He could try to make a move for, I don't know, maybe a presidential candidacy. that's something that I think would interest
Well,
me.
that was brought up last night in the Twitter space, and he basically responded by saying, look, I'm an engineer. I like to build things. I want to build things. I have no interest in going into politics.
Yeah, but we've heard that before
Agreed.
lots of times, because they say, well, now I've realized that through politics I can do much more good in the world because this allows me to implement solutions that affect more people than what I could do from the private sphere or something like that.
Right. And I think he's, to a degree, he's right. I mean, I don't think many people who have looked into the levers of our government think that anybody who's elected president can really do much. It's more just another PR, right? He just, it's public relations. It's shaking hands, kissing babies.
Yeah, and there's also I think a trend that we're going to start seeing in the world, which is related to the fact that governments around the world are starting to realize that they have to clamp down on internet, because I think what's going to happen is that in order to preserve, let's say, a political narrative, they're going to start censoring the internet, and that's going to put, let's say, a lot of tension between governments and between let's say the tech industry, because let's say you're a giant like Google and a country tells you that it's either their way or the highway. Maybe Google wants to let's say leave the country, or maybe they accept. It's going to be let's say a battle, and it's going to be an interesting one, because I for one, being a traditionalist, I think that the state ought to intervene, because it's such a powerful tool, and we cannot leave it in the hands of technocrats who are going to use it to weaponize it against your own people. But it's such a difficult thing, because you don't want to give that much authority to the state either, because it's probably going to misuse it. So we're kind of seeing like a slow boiling towards more authoritarian stuff, and we ought to keep an eye on Elon, but I think ultimately it's gonna end up in a sort of balkanization of the world, and I think the internet is gonna start to become more local and less global as time goes on, or at least I hope I'm wrong, but maybe that happens.
That's an interesting point. Patrick, what do you think, brother?
Hey, I guess quick observation on just everyone that's been on the panel.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of interesting. I would say people that are more like in the Western Christian Enlightenment camp, they're always talking about Elon in a like left-right paradigm, whereas the Orthodox critiques are more about the coherency of his actions as it relates to his positions and his worldview in general.
Right.
And then like it seems like a big competition to be in like either team right or team left, which I'm kind of confused about, because like the right wing now is like really pro gay marriage and stuff like that. So I'm confused about it overall.
Right.
Whereas the Orthodox are more like come to keep Team Christ. I don't know. It's just a different setup.
Well, I definitely agree with that general perspective, and and God bless our brother Catholic Tutor. Thank you for coming on. But that was certainly a framework he was using, more of a left-right, conservative liberal framework, and I don't think that really matches. I don't think that framework's really useful for anything at this point.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like if he's right. I mean, the standard is so low. You're like right wing now for pointing out difference between man and woman, and then we need to give up everything and follow you kind of thing. So I think Elon's more of the like Albert Pike principle. The people need a hero, so we shall supply him kind of idea.
Yep.
Thank you for hosting, DPH.
Yeah. Oh, you got to go out.
Care.
Yeah, go ahead, brother. God bless you. Thanks for hopping on.
Thank you.
Ivan, do you have any thoughts in regards to what Patrick said, or Kevin?
Not exactly. Like, I think that Elon really believes in what he says. Like, he seems sincere, but I think he has being so rationalistic makes him like a convoluted thinker. So one day he comes with one idea, the next he doesn't have a good grounding, and since he doesn't know a lot of philosophy, and he thinks that his, let's say, scientific view is like a good let's say, um, a good crutch instead of learning philosophy. I think that he's gonna surprise us by taking, let's say, stances that are like Jordan Peterson's, that they're kind of, yeah, you can understand where they're coming from. They're smart, but at the same time, it's like it's very unmoored from actual reality, and it's more like an ideological positioning and kind of the regular virtue signaling that they say they're against, but they inevitably always end up falling into.
Yep. What's up, Jose?
How's it
God
going?
bless you and the family, brother.
Thank you.
What are your thoughts on the topic tonight?
Yeah, so concerning Musk, I mean, he represents a faction within the Anglo-American establishment. Which faction that is, I don't know. You know, you look into his family and things just get crazy, especially concerning his father and his adopted sister and all that. So that suggests a lot of, what do you call it? Elite nonsense.
Yeah. Well, and we highlighted his grandfather, the father of his mother, was the leader of the Technocracy movement, officially known as Technocracy Incorporated, which was a social movement in the 1930s.
Yep. Yeah. So in terms of like, if people are asking like, is he a good guy or not? No, he's not a good guy. But I'm just saying, as a spick whose family line has been sitting on the sideline for 200 years, waiting for the Anglo-American, waiting for Hispanidad to be free of the Anglo-American Empire, we don't mind seeing what's it called, infighting.
Yeah, and that's where my general opinion is. As I've stated, I know that you and Patrick and Ivan just got here recently, but he might be doing good things. As I said, the movement of the Overton window, some things that he said on social media, replatforming Alex Jones. But no matter what he's doing that we would agree with, I think it is ultimately leading towards technocracy, and he's an explicit transhumanist. And I went to Neuralink and looked in a little bit before the stream, and it explicitly talks about brain interfaces with advanced artificial intelligence, of which then he is critical of when he goes on Joe Rogan, but then is supportive of in regards to Tesla AI, XAI, Grok, and Neuralink. So
yep.
very interesting.
I'd make a simple prediction concerning those who, in the best case scenario for those who get the Neuralink stuff in their brain, etc., is that they'll turn out like these kids who are being raised on smartphones.
Oh my gosh, yeah. That's a whole nother rabbit hole. I was going to do a stream on one time. Have you seen those videos of all these school teachers talking about how these kids are like literally emotionally and cognitively stunted because they have to have a pad in front of them?
I haven't seen the videos, but I've talked with several teachers in the Austin metro area who've seen it a lot. So it's like, I don't know. I guess the thing is, like, I'm kind of isolated from that, and that like a lot of we have a lot of friends who raise their kids without not just pads or phones, but like, I know people who have we have neighbors who they've raised 6 kids. 3 of them are still teenagers, the other 3 are grown, but they raised them without cell phones, and it's interesting because. Yeah, exactly. It's strange to me because I'm like, holy cow, this is like they have 2 16-year-olds who you can hold a conversation with, which is crazy. And I'm like, I want my kids to be like this. I don't want my kids to be like all the other kids I'm seeing around. So in that sense, I am definitely in a bubble, which I'm not. Again, that's kind of intentional.
Yeah, for sure. To that point, I know there was a study about they had kids draw pictures, and the groups were segmented based upon how much screen time the kids got. And the kids that had less screen time, their drawings were significantly more, I guess you would say, like pretty and imaginative, whereas the kids that were exposed to screens, like they couldn't think for themselves or use their brain at all.
Right. Yeah, I've heard that the utilization of their imagination is hampered by the constant inundation of colors and lights and visuals that they never really stimulate their own cognitive faculties.
Yeah.
I know I heard something recently. It was Monkalarian. He was talking about, it wasn't even, I think it was from before smartphones were a thing, but he was talking about don't buy toys that are connected to cartoons, because then the kids will use the toy as they see it in the cartoon, and that ruins the opportunity for the growth of creativity and imagination in the child's mind. So stick with toys that permit the kid multiple uses of it in a way that lets them grow. And when I was thinking about that, I was thinking about, with this whole move, there was a point where, our kids, my boy and girl, they had a what do you call it? A box, a ball, and a stick to play with. And of course, you know, for my son, you know, the ball's a ball, the box is a plane, and you know, the stick is a sword or a gun.
Right.
And in the case of
Yeah.
my daughter,
Yeah.
the ball is a baby, and the stick is a doll, and the box is a house. So it's just fun seeing that, and you don't have to tell them this stuff either; they just do it. So
Yeah.
Right. Great point.
My little sister's a teacher. I live in Massachusetts, and she's a high school teacher, and she does history. She has to teach with the smartphone to use Google Translate because there's so many like students that just came into the country and don't speak English.
And you said she was where in Chicago?
A high school teacher in Massachusetts.
Massachusetts, my bad.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm not surprised there either. Just want to remind everybody to smash that like who's watching us. And if you want to show some love and support the stream, feel free to send in a super chat using the Dono chat or the Streamlabs link. Both are in the video description, as well as YouTube if you prefer YouTube. And then if anybody wants to hop on here, we're getting ready to hit the 2-hour mark. So maybe we'll go for another 20, 30 minutes. You can do so. The link to join the stream is in the video description. So please join, especially if you have some counterpoints. I think the one we got closest to saying that Elon Musk is a friend was our brother Catholic Tutor, who came on, and he believed that he was a strong ally for Christendom, which I was a little bit critical of. But so if anybody has some thoughts, and if you think that Elon Musk is in fact your friend and you're not skeptical, please join on. We'd love to have you hop on and share your opinion.
See, I think platforms like yours are kind of like more important regardless of like Elon Musk or whatever, because you like, it's like tonight, you know, you just bring on regular people, we're having conversations, you know, we can see that there's like-minded individuals out there. Whereas like on X, you know, you need the blue check, you need so many followers, or you know what I mean? It's like more about the smaller platforms that are building communities. You know what I mean? Like your channel, Jay Dyer's, you know, the Crucible, you know, channels like yours and theirs have brought me out of like degeneracy, you know, and kind of gave me like a foundation and, you know, some hope in life, you know, like I was been a truther for a long time, but I still didn't have a foundation, and I was very nihilistic and very down. And, you know, once I found some like, you know, light and something to stand on, something to believe in.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm really humbled to hear that, and glory to God. And that really leads into the next question that I wanted to pose for everybody is, what's everybody's opinions then moving forward? Like if you had to speculate, we're getting ready to end 2023, 2024 is just around the corner, literally ready to start. We got a presidential U.S. election on the forefront. We see what's going on in Europe. We see that Ukraine is totally falling apart in its battle with Russia. We got the Israel-Gaza situation or Palestine situation, also the West Bank, of course. But what is, because I think we got 3 Orthodox Christians. Kevin, you might be an inquirer. I'm not sure. What's your religious position right now? How would you define yourself, Kevin?
I define myself like Orthodox curious, I guess. Like out of all
curious. There you go.
Yeah. Out of all the Christendoms, Orthodox seems best to me because of you know, it just seems. You know, I didn't dig the Pope.
Yeah.
I kind of grew up Protestant, and that's like, you know, right with degeneracy.
So what's everybody's thoughts then? If you had to speculate on basically the next decade, we'll say moving into 2030, 2033, what are your guys' thoughts?
So in terms of macro, at the macro level, one, you're going to see continued deflation in asset prices, so especially housing. It's what do you call? It's funny because you know the main thing people use for measuring the money supply is the M2 measurement, And according to that, money supplies, well, it's been shrinking since March 2022, which is what the Federal Reserve told the State Department and, well, the White House, that is what they would do if the U.S. cut Russia off of SWIFT. And they actually they went through with their promise. What's interesting is I was actually looking at other measures of the money supply, and I was looking at the Murray Rothbard thing. It was called the real money supply measurement thing. And that's one of those where it'll show like inflation, 30%, 20% a year, etc. And then like for the past year, it shows a 13% decline in currency in circulation, which is, to me, is fascinating. I mean, I personally, like, it depends where you are, but like where I am, I've been watching housing prices coming down. There's a certain point where prices were actually coming down faster than I was saving for a home, which was crazy. We'll see what happens, but I expect that to continue to decline, etc. So the time to buy is coming. Just if so, I'm not, what do you call it? Not a financial advisor, but like for myself, I've been stacking cash, waiting to buy in a deflationary crash, like what happened in well, actually, it wasn't even deflationary; it was disinflationary crash that happened in 2007 to 2009. So that's what I see happen in terms of like the macroeconomic level. The U.S. government, in terms of the election, there is a shot that they met. Like, I actually do believe there's a chance they might not even permit an election to happen.
That's what I'm leaning towards. It doesn't seem like they're going to, whether it be martial law, cyber attack, something new pandemic.
Which I find to be fascinating because, I mean, if you want to see a crazy U.S. election, just look at the presidential election of 1876. That was an insane one. And you can look at every single election, what do you call it? Presidential, congressional election going forward. And I'm just saying, you're going to find a lot of chicanery everywhere. Anyway, that was my field of study in university. So like, that was one thing of like how the U.S. government actually functions. Was interesting.
So what are your thoughts about BRICS then? Because if you look at the ruble, which I just did the other night, highlighting the errancies of Peter Zion, the ruble is actually stronger than it's been in the last 20 years, 30 years. And so and now we see the movement of BRICS. We see a new alliance. It seems like a lot of the OPEC nations are getting off the petroleum dollar. And
I can definitely give some insight in that because I mean, this is my own personal investment strategy that I was doing for like a decade.
Okay. Go ahead.
And I was really irritated when they cut Russia off because I couldn't buy Russian stocks anymore, which just really pissed me off. So the thing is, I mean, historically, I'll say this, like back in like 2014, 15, 16, the best place in the world to invest, if you're like a value investor, the only place in the world to invest was Russia. And the reason was because the Federal Reserve had this entire like financial project for manipulating the ruble. And their whole thing was to weaken the ruble as much as possible. So the ruble was devalued, from my own estimation, like about 2/3. So it should have been worth three times stronger than what it was. You had, stocks paying out dividends of like 12, 13, 14, 15%, in an environment where you have like, was it 0% interest rates, which is just insane. And then, 2000, when they cut Russia off from SWIFT, et cetera, people who held ETFs in Russian shares, et cetera, in the West lost everything. Effectively. But if you had physical shares and they're in Russia, then you're doing fantastic. But the Federal Reserve themselves, they said in March 2022, the Federal Open Market Committee actually had a whole thing with the Treasury Department, State Department, and the White House. So they said, hey, like if you cut them off from SWIFT, we can't manipulate their currency anymore. If we can't manipulate their currency, it goes free floating. Sure, people are going to panic for a little bit, but eventually it's just going to get super strong and there's nothing we can do to stop it. So my own personal estimation is that if the Russian central bank doesn't, what do you call it? Essentially, if they don't print money, their currency is going to get crazy strong, like insanely strong over the next 3 years. But they know that, and that's why they're actually trying to print more money, because they're terrified of what would happen if the ruble is suddenly worth 3 times more than what it is right now to their own industry. So that's their concern, and I understand that, because that kind of rapid strengthening is not necessarily a good thing. But that means that Russia's in a weird position where they can actually print money without having to have inflation, and without having the negative consequences the way that we would have if we were printing money right now. So that's
a great insight.
Yeah. So and I'm just really pissed that I missed out on that opportunity to invest. But yeah.
Me too. There was a prime opportunity way back in the day, and I was a really silly fella and was irresponsible with my money. But that's okay. I have more opportunity to make more money. So,
yep. Yeah.
But yeah, my opinion on Elon Musk. Everybody wishes to hear it. No.
That's the point of the panel. Go ahead, brother.
All right. I think Elon Musk could potentially be a friend. Actually, I really do think that.
Okay.
only insofar as because like obviously with like Neuralink and all of these things, he's like an obvious parasite, right? He wants to have everybody to leech off of their power and all like this. And he's bought a social media platform. He obviously wants to be a type of leader or something like this, or be, because like he's really wealthy. He owns a lot of this business company. He owns all these things and does all these amazing things. And every time I've ever seen it, he does it in the name of humanity, right? He's like a humanitarian or something like that, I guess. So I mean, like, if we survive through whatever crises or whatever else, then he'll be friendly to us. He will want us to survive, only insofar as to be potentially, attached with leeches or whatever. You know what I mean? So I don't know about going along with his friendliness, whatever he offers. But I mean, like, I don't suppose he would necessarily throw things in our way to have to work with him, like we have to get a Neuralink or whatever else like that. I don't know if he's ever said anything like that for certain.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll let some of the Orthodox brothers respond, because I'm sure they got some opinions on what you said. Go ahead, guys. Ivan or Patrick, you guys got thoughts?
No, I basically agree in a mild sense. I think that Elon Musk wants to be friendly. I think he wants to lead, but I think it's very difficult for him right now to accept the actual consequences of his position, in the sense that he wants to be, let's say, a benevolent king without the responsibilities of a benevolent king. And I think perhaps there comes a time where he realizes that he can do more with more power, because that's basically what he's trying to do. But ultimately, I think that Elon Musk is rather weaker than we think, because we think that he has all this money and these companies and such, but real power is in who makes the laws. And I don't mean the politicians. I mean the ones who pay the politicians to make the laws. If you want to take Elon out of the market, you can. Like, you can regulate Twitter into non-existence if you wanted to. Like, you can tank all his investments. You can destroy all his companies. So perhaps he realizes, in the same way he wants to make an AI in order for him to be the one to code it, so that other people don't code in bad intentions into the AI, he might want to pursue more power in order to solidify his position.
For sure. He is a powerful person, but like, you're right in saying totally that like there are more powerful powers that are like that are conjoined against him, or to make sure that he'll at least align parallel or with them and their and what they wish. Let's see.
Why does it seem like Elon Musk doesn't do anything without doing a poll first to make sure, like, it's the popular thing to do?
Like with Trump and Alex Jones way back in the day, he way back in the day, he was like, well, should I let Trump back on? And then everybody said yes. And then he let Trump back on, even though Trump doesn't say much of anything at all after that. I don't know why.
So if people said no, then would he have not have? And if the poll for Alex Jones, if it wasn't 70-30, would he have let him back on?
I'd assume so, only because at that point he would say, well, nobody on my platform wanted to let him back on. So, I mean, who am I to deny the people? Because that's what he was playing at the time, for the platform to have this air of free speech and everything like this, is like, oh, well, this is the free speech platform. What do the people want? Oh, they want Trump back. Well, here's Trump back and he doesn't say nothing. And here's Alex Jones back and he's saying something. So, I don't know. At least
I think that's performative, in the sense that
it is performative. Exactly.
Yeah, I think it's more making a spectacle out of it. Like I said, because he could have just reached out to Alex. So the whole narrative is that he was under the suspicion that the reason why he was banned was for the Sandy Hook thing. When then he was educated on it, and okay. But if Musk was really serious about it, he could have just reached out to Jones and found out. or he could have reached out to somebody who was familiar. Or as he said, well, once I looked into what Twitter said, it was because he harassed Oliver Darcy. And it's like, I don't know. That's why I think that he's certainly playing on the side in which we would be favorable for. But I feel like many of his ideas moving forward only bring us closer and closer to a full technocracy. So yeah, he's beneficial, and maybe he's an ally for battles we're facing in 2023, 2024, and maybe all the way through the rest of the decade. By 2030, we might be on a full electrical grid. There's only electric cars. Everything's tracked, and the X is your banking account and your social media and your health score.
Yeah.
Yep.
You can't stray too far from civilization when you just have a battery pack. You can't bring any gas with you, you know?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Oh, shout out to the Crucible crew. We just got dumped. 300 people just came over here. So we got a huge audience. But yeah, what did your, nobody else spoke in regards to projections for the rest of the decade? Like Patrick, Ivan, what are your guys' thoughts with Elon Musk moving forward, looking at X, looking at the global state of things? I mean, it feels like the U.S., the Western banks, and Israel are basically in a position where the entire world is in opposition to them. And the power in which they wielded, which was the dominancy of the dollar and central banking, with BRICS, it seems like that's going to be potentially undermined. And it feels like, again, maybe Jose, you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, it feels like it's in a position where it's basically the West and then the entire rest of the world that is looking to move into a new direction.
Yeah, I think the West is just going to continue to double down, and it's opening so many fronts on a warfare perspective, both like physical warfare and then economic, that it's just going to collapse. Like you can't just sustain fighting on so many fronts. And I just think I wouldn't be surprised if. What, sorry?
You're good now. You cut out for a second.
I wouldn't doubt it. And if like 8 years, you know, like there's still the Peter Zehan crowd that's like, Russia's getting their ass kicked, you know, just tomorrow kind of thing. And then, you know, everyone else is just like in the real world, like, oh, we're still talking about that?
What up, Andrew?
Hey, what's going on, man? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, brother. Hey, thanks for the dump in the crowd over here. I really appreciate that.
Oh, it was my pleasure. The panel that I was on sucked so bad. You can't even imagine how bad it was. So I was happy to end that early and join your panel over here, if you don't mind.
Absolutely, bro. So what's your thoughts on Elon Musk and everything that's going on?
I've never trusted Musk, and I'm never going to trust Musk.
Right.
I think that he's run-of-the-mill social elite, and just because he's kind of freed things up a little bit on Twitter, I think that he made some kind of bad executive decisions which led it to go bankrupt, and he's kind of coping with the Jays that did this to him. I think it was also kind of mismanagement on his part, but ultimately I don't think he gives a shit about free speech. I think that he's looking for some compromise for ad revenue.
Yeah, and I highlighted that I believe he's using X to map all global discourse, and he now has 3 AI projects. Tesla AI, X AI, and then Grok is the chat AI that's now part of X. So his rhetoric on Joe Rogan, you know, warning everybody about advanced artificial intelligence, and yet he's got 3 pans in the fire specifically regarding just advanced artificial intelligence.
Well, the thing is I think the AI takeover, we're pretty far away from it, right? Even the technology that's been released out to the public, not nearly so good as people had hoped that it was going to be, right? Still kind of dumb bots, really, when it's said and done. But you know, kind of moving back to Musk, I think that this chatter kind of sums it up nicely, which is that he's just a kind of an opportunist. And in this particular case, the opportunity presented itself to give him, I don't know how many billions of dollars worth of publicity, but X has definitely done that for him in a big way. And he drives a ton of controversy, which then gives him more publicity. And I think that that was the objective and goal. And I think that that's what's going on.
Yep. Yeah. And you're talking about the ad revenue stuff. He went and hired Linda, who was working for the World Economic Forum. So he's talking about, as I said, George Soros, the Open Society, globalist. Oh, I bought Twitter. We're going to establish free speech. And I'm no longer going to be the CEO. I'm going to hire somebody. And actually, she's from the World Economic Forum.
Yeah, well, I mean, we saw this with the Trump effect, right?
Right, exactly.
Trump goes in, he's going to drain the swamp, and then most of the players who get in there are the swamp. And how they present themselves, they come in and present themselves to Trump this way. What they do is they say, yes, we were part of the swamp, but we had to be in order to maintain some type of power. But we've really secretly always wanted to drain the swamp. We've secretly always wanted to. So if you hire us, we're going to help you kind of deliver the coup de grace to the establishment. And of course, the opposite happens. What really was going on was they were ingratiating themselves into his administration, which led to his downfall. He basically let the vipers in. So all of these people, every single time, seem to be able to ingratiate themselves, and they present themselves as being saviors. That's how Musk presented himself. He's going to save X. He's going to save Twitter. He's going to save all of this, right? Well, I'm not so sure that he did. There's still some big high-profile accounts which are not back on X that he hasn't given a great reason for. Nick Fuentes is one of them. It's a high-profile account, but it's not. Fuentes hasn't said anything any worse than Alex Jones has, to be perfectly honest with you. So he's really kind of hedging his bets, and it seems like he's looking for some kind of compromise to keep off what some of the people think are bad actors. With the forces that be, in this case, the ADL's fighting tooth and nail to keep some people away from any type of public display. And I think he's compromising with them.
Yeah, I agree with that. And, I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are with the whole Bob Iger, and these various CEOs that are pulling their advertisements off X. I mean, the idea that he was going to make it, I mean, he's getting subscription money. So it's, and he's cut the staff, so I don't see how just advertisement is going to bankrupt the company. But he's created this narrative where he's in opposition against all these global elites. But then, as I highlighted, when you look at XAI, he hired all engineers from ChatGPT and Google, the same companies which he's then criticized publicly.
Yeah, well, but you got to remember that he's only hiring the secretly based technicians who have been there for a long time wanting change. We've been wanting the change. We just needed you before we could really affect the change that we wanted to see. That's how it's being presented. And it's the same kind of shit as we saw with the Trump administration. Same thing. Right. Same thing. By the way, I see Rachel gifted 5 memberships to the stream. Guys, make sure, be very generous to COTEL. He's a great guy. I love being on his streams. He makes great content.
Well, thank you so much, Rachel. And welcome LRN News, Moon, Phantom of the Paradise, Andrew, INFJ, and Jack Hugs. Thank you guys for joining the COTEL crew.
I wanted to build on what Andrew said there about the whole hiring the base technicians, just because I know some of the engineers who've been hired out by SpaceX and other Musk groups. The thing is, for Musk, it's also a hiring tactic too, because there are people who are tired of the leftist progressive nonsense, who work deep in the building, whether it be Google's data infrastructure or what have you. And so he has been able to attract people like that who just get sick and tired of what Google is. And of course, when they jump to another company expecting things to be more normal, I mean, in a sense it is, and it's a little less crazy, but the insanity is still there. So it is also a hiring tactic to draw away talent that's dissatisfied with the political or the corporate political situation.
That's a good point. Willie Jenkins.
Was Twitter ever?
Go ahead.
Was Twitter ever profitable though?
No, I don't believe it was.
The irony is,
well, it was a lot more profitable than it is now. Mm-hmm. So it ran off of, it really ran off of ad revenue. I mean, now we pay for our Twitter accounts, right? We never had to pay for Twitter before. But the kind of bait and switch to that was, while we didn't have to pay for Twitter, they would also suppress in the algorithm the things that they didn't like, and they would make trend the things that they did like. And Musk, people say he was crucial in exposing that, but not really. We already knew that that was going on, and he's actually been surprisingly scarce with the details. So he'll come out and he'll say, listen, what these guys were doing is making different news stories trend, but he doesn't really give us the details in how they were doing that, why they were doing none of the motive. He doesn't really tell us much. It's like, it's always next week I got a huge bombshell. And then he says, well, this is going on, but he doesn't give you any real good practical information you can dive into. So
it's kind of stuff you already knew pretty much.
Right.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it's kind of like that. He does give us something, but it's not much. You know what I mean? It's not really enough to sink your teeth into. This guy has access to all the global players' accounts on Twitter. Okay, so all that's public data. He could have gone through the accounts of I don't know how many tens of thousands of people through their DMs and things like that they used on Twitter. He probably has the keys to the kingdom. Maybe the ultimate blackmail source. You know what I mean?
True.
He had it at his fingertips, and Twitter owned all of that content, all your DMs, all of your everything. And he is not showing us any of that information. So what's going on with it? That's my question. Because
No,
I
they
mean,
would kill him.
it's a keystroke away for him to access DMs of some of the most powerful leaders that there are.
They would kill him in a heartbeat. Like, he cannot do that.
Well, these
I'll just say
people
it's definitely doable.
act like ignorant masterminds. Like they're supposed to be masterminds, but they constantly make the wrong decisions, it seems like.
Well, they're not listen, they're not really, they're not masterminds. They're part of a same cesspool, an elitist cesspool. And what happens is you do become the culmination of the people that you know and the people that you do business with and the people that you're around. And so it's really hard for me to envision. One of the reasons that we gave Trump so much kind of credibility is because he wasn't part of the establishment going in. Okay. Yes, he ran with rich elitist kind of businessmen, but he wasn't really part of the political cast. So we could see him as being somebody who could shake things up. But Musk has always been part of that. He's always been part of that quagmire, part of that cesspool. Of course, they frame his worldview. And while he kind of pays lip service to this whole freedom of speech thing, it seems that he'll suppress accounts in a moment with no hesitation if he thinks that this is in some way good for him or for his platform. So, you know, you got to kind of read between the lines on what this guy says versus what he does. And again, he has access to the DMs of global leaders and everybody else, and has had them now for months. And he seems to be surprisingly incurious.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like if you imagine for a second, if you had access to that, if you bought Twitter tomorrow and you had access to like Trump's DMs and Biden's DMs, or even just the people who are running those accounts and all these different global leaders who are all using it. And I'm sure they're all using the DM system, right? Because these people are not that smart. Wouldn't you just like take a peek? Wouldn't you, could you even help yourself? Wouldn't you just kind of be like, just let's see, let's see what's on this guy's mind. Like, even if you told yourself, I'll never tell anybody, wouldn't you take a look? I don't think I could help myself.
Right.
And it wouldn't be hard either. Like I had a job 7 years ago back when I did business intelligence where we were, looking for signal among, the noise and data. It's not that hard to build, some simple scripts that would actually just comb through all that DM data for you and find stuff that it just recognizes as being spicy.
Well, he wouldn't get sued because Twitter owns your DMs.
Right.
And
They own the DMs.
They own your DMs. They own everything. You can't sue them, right? They own all of that. So he basically has them. You don't even need to write a program. It's already there. They can access the DMs whenever the hell they want. They've always been able to. They never built a program in barring themselves from looking at your DMs. That's never been the case. They've always had access to them. So it's like, of course, he had to have looked. I would say that when he looked, if I were Elon, if I was at that level of being a political elite, I would be using this for blackmail for my business, right? And I think that that's exactly what he did. I think that his purpose for buying Twitter was so that he could blackmail, not so that he could free it.
I agree with that, and I can actually reinforce that because the problem with Musk's business model, like SpaceX, Tesla, etc., they're all dependent on cheap money, and the era of cheap money is over. And with Twitter, as you mentioned, now you have a means of blackmail to get business directed to SpaceX, etc. Way to steer legislation that favors Tesla, what have you. That I definitely see that as
Well,
being
yeah.
true.
I mean, look at it from his perspective. Let's say he says, "Wait a second. Okay, all these people who are these massive thorns in my side from getting different paperwork done or getting different kind of above board, things pushed that are in my favor. Well, I could just read their DMs and I find out that, this powerful senator happens to be fucking around on his wife and he uses Twitter to DM back and forth with her, right? I would hire people to go through and start looking and cataloging those things for me so that I could use it to blackmail those people so that I could do what I wanted. That's exactly what I would do. Why would I assume that he wouldn't do that?
Probably why Trump didn't want to come back.
Right, exactly. Probably why Trump didn't want to, or probably why many of them don't want to come back. And also another reason that you can kind of look at is the government has been surprisingly quiet about Twitter. They have been surprisingly quiet about the hate mongering and this, and they have not really caused the kind of scene that you would think you would see on Capitol Hill with the ADL going crazy. You would expect to see the entire political establishment going ape shit to try to shut this thing down, just like they did with Gab when the ADL went after them. But they've been surprisingly quiet. Makes me think, well, the guy has the keys to the kingdom. He strolled right in and he pulled up all your dirty laundry that you left on Twitter because you're stupid.
And like what they did with Ye too. Kanye West, banking them and everything.
Well, remember that when he took the deal from Dorsey, he told Dorsey that they would only buy Twitter, or not Dorsey, the CEO after Dorsey. But anyway, when he bought Twitter from him, it was that Arabic dude. One of the restrictions that he put in was that you can't change anything. I want the entire code intact. I'm sending my people to oversee this entire exchange, everything. He moved into the building instantly. As soon as he had access, he was in. And so there was not a lot of time to just purge everything. And part of the deal was that he couldn't purge anything anyway. The whole thing has the setup. It has a whole setup vibe to me. And so that's what I think is going on. I think that if you just go to forums online where you have people who are forum owners and things like that, they check DMs that people are sending back and forth all of the time. They, report different criminal activities that go on their websites because they have access to those DMs. I have no reason to think that a multi-billionaire would make that kind of investment into Twitter, knowing there would be no exchange, there would be no return. And he knew there wouldn't be a return on investment. So what was he getting? What was Musk getting? That's the question.
Yeah,
well,
we just don't know.
I think he was getting.
think we do know.
He was getting what he wanted. I think what he wanted was the
Some
information.
juicy gossip.
Data mining.
Yeah, well, I mean, never think for a second that that gossip is not the key to bringing down kingdoms, because it has.
No, that's fair enough, but I think that's kind of an optimistic picture in the sense that it's more possible, in my estimation, that he's playing along with the system rather than going against it or subverting it from within or something like that. I think that the reason that the mainstream media is not trying to, let's say, burn down Twitter is that Twitter is actually doing what the establishment wants it to do.
What does the establishment want it to do?
Yeah,
manage public opinion.
Well, but it's not. It's doing a terrible job of managing public opinion right now. The ban ADL trend, that was not something that the ADL or the political elites wanted at all. That was not something that they wanted trending. These are not the conversations they want going on in the platform. But it also seems like it's kind of a smoke and mirrors endeavor on their part to kind of say, well, we're trying to make this a free speech platform. But the real question is, what did Elon want? What did he want? What was he getting out of this billions of dollar investment that he made with money that wasn't his? It was all public sector money anyway. You know what I mean? I mean, Elon Musk himself he's never really made any money. He's lost his ass on basically every endeavor he's gone into, right? He just gets public sector cash just thrown at him.
It's a great point.
So I think that there is more going on here than meets the eye.
Well, and as I said, in addition, because your blackmail thing makes a lot of sense, and also using his AIs to map global discourse in relationship to further blackmail and just understanding who's saying what, who's liking what. It's an immense point of power, and I think it goes along with all his electric themed companies other than SpaceX. They're all based on moving us towards an electric grid to save the planet. So, I mean, that makes a lot of sense to me.
And the thing too is he's the front man. I mean, at a minimum, he's the front for his own family, his own clan. You know, it's the people who are making the decisions, you know, wielding the real power or just making the decisions are not people who are going to be public. And this is true not just at the federal level or the imperial level. It's also true at the state level. Like you can take, for example, a U.S. state like Maine or a province. Actually, in this case, it's ruled by the same family, the province of New Brunswick in Canada. Both of those local governments or the state governments are controlled by the Irving family. And you don't get anything done at you know in either of those state or provincial government in Canada without the Irving family say so. So and like even like you could take a state like New Mexico. It's New Mexican state government is controlled by the same 32 families that controlled it before the United States annexed New Mexico from Mexico. So it's, you know, at every level of governance, you have your local elites, the ones who actually make the real decisions. And then you have the people who are elected who are just, for lack of a better term, either frontmen, either for selling an idea or for, you know, being the ones to take the blame when things go wrong. Yeah, it's just the nature of democratic politics. You can look at the republics of Italy in the Renaissance, for example. It's not the people who are publicly, you know, the leaders are the one that wield the real power.
Let me ask you guys a question.
Go ahead.
Why is Twitter still filled to the brim with pornography?
Yeah.
Yep.
I totally agree.
Clicks.
Well, I think they can also offer the solution for the pornography by checking people's government ID to get rid of the bots.
Blackmail. I would say blackmail, because Twitter was
Yeah.
the lead what do you call it, distributor for or was being used for the lead distribution of CP. I don't know if that's TOS or not. But
It's probably also a very big moneymaker just in general too.
Who's making? How are they making money off of that?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't the pornography industry make money though? Being on there, doesn't that drive people to stay on there?
Well, I mean, that might make that industry money, but how does it make Elon Musk money when most of his advertisers have completely abandoned him, including most of the pornography advertisers who are run, most of these large porn companies, they're affiliates with people who have links to the ADL and things like this. There's no doubt that that's true. I mean, you can find Pornhub, for instance. They have links to the ADL. There's no doubt that that's true.
Yeah, there's tons of porn on Twitter or X.
Yeah, so what's it doing there?
I think it drives clicks. I don't buy the idea that there are no more advertisers in Twitter. Like they're moving into a different direction in terms of having a mixed revenue stream, but you're never gonna get rid of advertisement. Like it happens all the time. You pay for a service, and then you're going to get advertisement anyway. It happened with cable TV. It happens every single time because advertisement is the way you get people to pay without having a subscription. So people who are not willing to, it's a freemium model. Twitter has a system where the people who pay for it are the ones who want more reach. You're buying reach, but basically the real money makers are still going to be the ads.
Yeah, except that Apple pulled out, IBM pulled out, Disney pulled out,
Google,
Comcast pulled out, Lionsgate pulled out, Warner Brothers pulled out, Universal pulled out, Paramount pulled out. The list of major advertisers that you would expect to see on the world's largest information sharing site.
Yep.
Those all should be part of that, and they would literally be tripping over themselves to get on a site like that to get those kinds of eyeballs on their brands, but they all pulled out. Every one of them pulled out. So they're not making any real huge money anymore on advertisement. The last space that I heard was with Alex Jones, and he was talking with Elon Musk, and Musk basically admitted that X is bankrupt. It's completely bankrupt at this point. So he has to start pumping in his own cash soon in order to keep it afloat. They try to manage the hemorrhaging by having people buy accounts, but it turns out that really big accounts are also quite cheap when it comes to this. They didn't want to spend the $6 to verify their own accounts because they kind of said we can take it or leave it. For instance, if you're Beyonce and you have a Twitter account, do you think that Elon Musk is going to throw you off because you didn't spend the $6? No, he's not going to do that. That would be a terrible decision. So they basically can just go on like nothing's even happened. And a lot of them did go on like nothing's even happened.
So, Andrew, I'm curious what your thoughts are, because earlier we were talking about him bringing Alex Jones back and what the benefit of that, because we had a Catholic guy come on and he was in favor that Elon Musk is helping Christendom and that he's one of our biggest allies. But what we were highlighting to him, because he's like, well, why would he bring Alex Jones on if he wasn't trying to help us? And we were saying, well, he could easily bring various people on to sort of influence their audience and build a sort of conglomeracy of people and networks that think that Elon Musk is freeing us and providing us free speech and all this different stuff. What are your thoughts, given your angle on this whole Twitter acquisition? What are your thoughts on why he would do that? Because it certainly wouldn't be beneficial to bringing more advertisers back.
So, well, he's not looking at the angle of bringing back large advertisers. That ship has sailed.
Right.
So they're looking at alternatives, and I think they're going to start moving the alternatives the same way that Jones did to sales. So interestingly enough, Jones had this exact same problem where when he got on these large broadcast networks, the advertisers pulled out. Now they couldn't make money, but they had all of these eyeballs on them. They had all the viewership you could ever imagine, but they had no way to source income for themselves. So what Jones did was he started his own vitamin network. And so when he did that and he started his own pills, he started his own everything. What he does now is he gives himself obscene profit breaks every few minutes of his show, and he shills his product. And I say shill in the most generous way possible, right? But he's pitching the product. I don't know what's going on down there. But anyway, he's pitching.
Go ahead, Andrew.
Anyway, he's pitching the product. And a lot of people buy that product to the tunes of hundreds of thousands of people globally. And he actually started to make more money off of the product. Now, I'm not saying that he wouldn't have made more money off of advertisers like IBM and Apple and this and that. Ultimately, I think he would have.
Right.
But he was still able to make a shitload of money. We're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars, right? To the tune that he could be sued by a certain families. For $1 billion, right? They sued him for a ridiculous amount of money. So why would I think that Twitter wouldn't go the same route and they wouldn't start looking at this as what can we now sell if we can't move into advertising? We can't get advertisers. And so that's what I think they're doing. They're going to start moving into sales in order to keep the company afloat rather than move into advertisement. Same thing Alex Jones did. Makes total sense that they would bring a guy like Alex Jones back up there. The guy's been doing that for years and years and years. They'll probably bring on tons of people who are like this, who've now turned their brand into something they sell in order to make money because they can't have advertisers anywhere near them.
Do you think
what do you think he's going to sell?
Well, I think that the first thing that's up for grabs is your data. And so I think that that's one of the primary reasons that pornography is still allowed on X is because there's all sorts of institutions all around the world who pay top dollar to data mine who is and who isn't watching porn. And these institutions are often on the payroll of the porn industries themselves.
Right.
And the reason that obviously they want to know that information so that they can pitch it better. Right.
Right.
So I think that's why he's allowing porn to continue on the site, and he's gathering as much data as he can. I think that they're going to sell it. Of course, I think that they'll publicly say that they're not, but they will. And then after they move from the data, I think that they'll actually move into physical products. I think they'll move into physical products and begin to sell X branded physical products. I think that that's a good possibility or some variation of that.
Well, and he's mentioned, and that would lead credence to his goal of creating an everything app. because we talked earlier about X and I was showing up stuff about banking, health, social media, family photos, and purchasing products. He wants to create a sort of Amazon-like feature to X, and that would lead more credence to that.
Well, it's not just that, but you have the. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, man.
Oh, yeah, thanks. Amazon also doubled down on producing its own items while using the data of its sellers. So it would actually study who was doing well and how they were advertising, then copy, reverse engineer their product and make it cheaper and just cut them out of it because they had the benefit of bumping their stuff up and advertising it first over their competitors. So they actually copied numerous other lines of people just making anything from toilet paper to, coat hangers, and then they made an Amazon version of their product and then just bumped their advertising up for free, basically.
Yeah.
Well, I think when you're talking about the types of products that you're going to get into, you can look at Gab as kind of a almost a roadmap for what I see going ahead. Gab had this issue from the very beginning where he said, I'm going to allow the kind of free speech that's really abhorrent to people, right? That people really loathe. And you can call a person on Gab the N-word to their face and there's nothing they can do about it, right? But that's really not very advertiser friendly, is it? And so no advertisers will touch that place with a 10-foot pole. So foreseeing that this was a problem, the inventor of Gab says, okay, what I want to work on is what I call an alternative economy. So the alternative economy that we're going to focus on is we're going to be moving the same type of day-to-day general products that you would see anywhere else in the world, including here in the United States. But I'm going to give you a payment processing system and a different way in which you can engage with buying those products through a system that rewards you rather than punishes you, sells your data, things like that. So I think that the Gab has had to rely on that. They've had to rely on, independent people's money to move towards this alternative economy. I think that that's exactly what Twitter is going to do. Except they're in a position where they can actually create an alternative economy.
Yeah, I completely agree with what you just said, Andrew. I think that that's why I said that Twitter still cares about eyeballs on the screen, in the sense that with AI you can make like targeted ads, and they have the best data in terms of consumer information. Like I could make, in the same way that Amazon operates by selling you a product it doesn't even have an inventory. Like they could sell you stuff that they think you want to have. They would create the ad through AI, which costs nothing to do. They can target it and they can ship it to you. Like it's so easy. So in that sense, I think that the attention economy still rules. So and I think you're right in terms of these places becoming like window stores.
Yeah,
So you
well,
think
I
he's gonna try
think
to
there's no
capitalize?
choice. There's no choice ultimately. Oh no, you go ahead, man. I'm sorry, I've been talking a bunch.
No, it's fine. So from what you were saying, do you think he's going to try to kind of capitalize on the, back to the porn subject, capitalize on like the OnlyFans wave and try to mimic that business model? Since, I mean, regardless of what you think about immorality, I mean, as a business model, it seems to be pretty successful. You think he's going to try to do that with X?
Well, right now he has to stop the hemorrhaging. So there's only X amount of free money that X is going to get in order to sustain itself. And with all the major advertisers pulling out, right, they've expanded already some of the connectivity using these different spaces, which are available. They really promote the hell out of those. They're really trying to promote interconnectivity and try to get more people on more people's profiles. And I think that the reason that they're doing that is there's more of a chance actually that you'll stumble across these porn profiles. And I think that that's the data which will go first. I think that that's the data which will be sold first at the highest price.
Do you think that will look like a type of credit system, or what other form do you think that type of X currency would be like, or something?
Well, I think that it would not surprise me if X used some form of its own cryptocurrency ultimately. But I think that they'll just use kind of a standard economy system of a mixture of PayPal and other variations like PayPal. They may create their own version of it, but they'll probably use something very standardized like that. They don't have the same reputation that like Gab does in Torba, where they can't use normative methods for gathering payment. So I think that they'll still use pretty normal methods for that.
What do you think about them also selling their own digital products? I mean, I've seen TikTok. If you're talking about all these porn bots that are on X, TikTok is now targeting people with AI girlfriends.
Yeah, but I mean, so you try to understand all of these different areas between YouTube and Twitch, Kick, even into TikTok, all these different arenas. They all have kind of their own different agendas and their different goals.
Right.
TikTok moves specifically towards marketing towards women. And you know this because most of their user base is women.
True.
So what they're really looking for there is what women want. Well, what do women want? Well, they want pictures of puppies and makeup, and they want nails, and they want bullshit like that. What they don't care about is politics. What they don't care about is the political theater. What they don't care about is ethical issues. They don't give a shit about any of that. They care about ponies and fingernails and makeup and bullshit. Okay, that's what they care about. So ultimately, what do you see TikTok go after to get rid of? They go after political channels left and right to get rid of it. They go after anybody who's talking politics for the most part to try to get rid of them. They go after anybody who is negative towards LGBTQ issues to get rid of them. Anything that upsets the boat of bringing in more females to sell shit to, that's what they're going to go after. So each different platform has a different agenda behind this as to who it is they're trying to pander to. YouTube still allows political content, but would prefer to take a more TikTok-esque model and suppress all political content and make it instead only that same thing, where the entire consumer base consists of, you know, ponies and kitten videos and shit like that, because that's what is bumped in the algorithm, because that sells the most amount of shit on the ads when women see it. So this is the model for kind of the new age.
So ultimately the question is like, how long are we useful to Elon Musk? That's the real question. You know what I mean? Because I actually like to follow Elon Musk a little bit. I started doing a little bit more research when the Twitter stuff come up, and he's stated his like purpose or his goals and his driving, whatever, his engine behind all of this and all of his business ventures is what will get the species off the planet. He said that like multiple times, or stated that multiple times. So then I'd like to pose that kind of question to the panel, is like, how long are we useful, I guess, or like, should we continue to fund the platform?
Well, I have an answer to this, if you guys don't mind. I know I've been speaking a bunch. You can tell me to shut up when.
No, man, you came with a new angle. We were already chatting for almost 2 hours before you joined, so you got a new angle for us. This is good.
So if you want to get people excited about building rocket ships to fly into outer space to discover new worlds, a thing which almost nobody seems to give a shit about, surprisingly, one of the big turns in the late 20th century was that nobody gave a shit about outer space. They don't care, right? They don't care at all. They care about vehicles that'll get them to and from work. They care about the size of their paycheck. They care about football. They care about beer. They care about marriage issues, relationship issues. They don't give a shit about outer space. It's like the lowest thing on the list of priorities ever. So how do you
I don't know. It's one of my top. I watch all kinds of space.
Yeah,
shit.
sure, but I'm guessing you're the exception to the rule.
Interested at a distance, though, right?
Yeah,
like,
so
I don't want to get on the first ship.
The thing is if you want to get people super excited, though, about the thing that they don't give a shit about, what you do is you say there's a cataclysm coming. There's a big problem that's going to happen, right? And the reason we need to have this technology is so that we can fly people to Mars and Venus and all these other places so that they can colonize. And wouldn't it be great to get off of this planet? And it's great marketing. It's great marketing towards people who literally don't give a shit about this, which is most people. You think people in the Sudan, you think people in Africa care about outer space and rocket? They don't give a shit. You think people in Europe who are dealing with a mass invasion in their nations right now and having these massive political fights care about rocket ships? Like we're past that. We don't give a shit anymore. So he has to kind of push this somehow, and it's always pushed around cataclysm, and that's what he talks about a lot.
It's true.
Yeah, the global.
Well, he's been saying this for a long time, though. That's what interests me about this. Like,
well,
whereas, like, you know, if you have
a long time,
no, but I'm saying, yeah, true, but I'm saying like this is literally like his because I'm pretty sure he's an atheist too, or I think he's like agnostic or something. But this is his whole like driving ethos. Like, whereas, you know, you have like Christian ethics and stuff like that, and you have like people who follow a religion, and those are their core beliefs. I think this is his literal like core belief. This is his purpose. He thinks he's put here for, whether he believes in a creator or not. So
Yeah,
it's interesting to me.
I think he's a typical dork that loves outer space, and he loves thinking about the different planets and aliens and shit like that, right? And he really wanted to get into this. Well, it was been an unmitigated disaster for him. None of his rocket ships work. They all blow up. Some of them blow up a few feet in the air. Some of them blow up on the tarmac itself. Some of them blow up a couple hundred feet in the air, but they all blow up, right? He hasn't really been successful in this endeavor at all. He thinks he likes rocket ships. They're super cool. That's great. He wants the whole public around him. He does everything he possibly can to get you thrilled to death about the next launch so that you can watch a rocket ship blow up, because that's all that ever happens, right? But it doesn't seem like the drive here is realistic, and it's more of a drive to create money and create views and eyeballs on this thing that he likes.
Well, we were talking earlier about the transhumanism and why, whether he's doing things right now that we agree with or not, we also have to keep in mind Neuralink and all these other companies that maybe he is pro humanity. As Andrew, I know you listened to the Twitter space last night. The whole rhetoric was that it's not left or right. It's not globalist versus nationalist. It's pro-human versus anti-human. And that, I thought that was, an interesting little frame that they have. But at the same time, my concern, at least with regarding my research, is this transhumanist movement and the technocracy that's coming forth. And so I don't see him in opposition to any of that stuff.
Well,
he's a catalyst for it.
Yeah, he wants to be at the forefront of it so that he gets there first, so he doesn't have to be following Zuckerberg and the rest of them. He wants to be the first billionaire there.
And that's why
he said that.
Hijacking what if you want to call it the populist movement or the right of center, or however you want to frame it. This is just a really convenient way to further his agenda, that you bring in somebody who's actually still moving us to the same New World Order, to the same technocratic globalist structure. But yeah, he'll allow you freedom of speech, but not freedom of reach. And he'll give you all these other alternatives. And that's how I generally see what's going on. I'm, like I said earlier, very, very skeptical of him.
Well, think about this too. The transhumanist agenda from their perspective is pro-humanist. It is pro-humanity. It is pro-human being from their perspective.
Yeah, from their
so when these guys, when they say I'm pro-human, that doesn't, or pro-humanity or anti-humanity, that doesn't mean anything to me, because depending on your perspective, right, that could mean something totally different than what I think it means. You know what I mean? When you say you're pro-human, you could be a depopulationist. You could be a pro-abortionist and say that all of these things are good for human flourishing, like Dillahunty would say, right? But I don't consider them to be pro-human at all. And so ultimately, even them having this discussion, I'm skeptical as to what they consider the good is for humanity, right?
Well, if you look at some of them, the hardcore transhumanists, like Harari, when he starts talking about we must transcend our humanity, they think being anti-human there is pro-human as well. Some of them write that anybody that won't go along with it are 8-brained meat sacks, if we want to go into this singularity.
Right. So they're all post-human. That's the general tendency of any transhumanist. And that's what I was listening. That's what my general thought when I was listening to the Twitter space, is him wanting to reframe it. Oh, it's not about globalists or nationalists. It's just about those that are pro-human and those are anti-human. And, his version of pro-humanity could just be having more people on the planet, because let's face it, we know for a fact that the planet can sustain more people than already exist. And that would also allow him to sell more products. And if he was selling data and mapping global discourse, it would make sense that, well, that's a benefit. And if he wants to terraform Mars, which, like I said, and Andrew was highlighting with the fact that many rockets end up blowing up. I know he's accredited with all these satellites in space, and they've been visiting the International Space Station, but they haven't even gone to the moon. Like, they haven't even flown around the moon. And we're talking about going to Mars.
Who's got the echo?
Yeah, who is that? Okay, Kevin. Thanks, man.
Also could be investing in the future, because if if dataism actually takes off, if Andrew was already talking about selling the data as the first hot commodity, and it doubles as a power mechanism with blackmail and knowing what people are up to and predicting trends and advertising to people. If dataism becomes a thing, like these people like Harari talk about everything becoming data because it's the only thing that has power, then it would become an even hotter commodity in the future. It'd be like Bitcoin when more people start using it.
Yeah, I wanted to add on, or whenever you guys were talking about that earlier about the why there's pornography on there. I think it's all ultimately just to keep users on, and because people all have those guilty pleasures. So the other thing that Twitter started doing, I noticed recently, because we use it at work for the business, and I put it on the iPad at work, and then it asked me if I wanted to allow it to track other apps. I hadn't seen that before. I haven't updated the app recently on my phone. I mostly use it on my browser or whatever. So let's say you get off of Twitter, but then you make a burner account so you can go do your little deviancy. Well, it can track you through your other apps. So it still knows your profile ID. It knows who you are, and it can still use that to market against you or to you, whatever, and to sell your data to other people.
Right. Well, I mean, of
so
course,
I thought that was kind of an interesting thing that I noticed.
That's always going to be the first thing, which is sold because it's the easiest thing to sell. Okay. And there's tons and tons of buyers for it, especially the porn industry. They just love their data collection. It's their favorite because they're always looking for new ways to target pornography at new demographics. And they also know that the more that they do it, the more that they get that in front of you. If they just get a single picture in front of you, it can definitely change a person's perspective as to what they're fed, whatever it is.
Right.
All it takes is one. So they're always looking for new ways to get that in front of you, even through what literally might seem like it's very safe. How many times have you gone to an internet website, for instance, for something that's general and kind of normal, and you click on it and suddenly there's a half naked chick there? You know what I mean?
Yep.
There's always a way to kind of snare you in, and the porn industries love doing this. They talk about this, in fact, often in their various marketing campaigns about how they need to reach out to more kind of normative consumer bases so that they can get more of this in. And they say that the way that they can do this is they don't just like hit you with hardcore pornography immediately, because that's a turnoff. What they do instead is they kind of gradually push it out. They show you kind of half naked chicks or somebody holding a sign, or, hey, if you like me and you want to know more, go over here. They used to have bots. These have kind of fallen off, but there used to be bots that would pop up that say, hey, I'm in such and such. Want to chat? You remember those, right?
Yeah.
How many times do people get those? So it's always kind of the same slow march. But they still are spending big money on data gathering for people's habits so that they know where to place those ads. And these sites are not getting smaller. They're only getting bigger. The use fans for OnlyFans is growing. It's not decreasing. Same thing with these other porn sites. The user bases are just increasing year after year after year. So they know exactly what they're doing, but they need your data to do it.
Okay, if I may chime in for a second, I think that going back to the topic of Musk, I think that Musk is kind of a smarter elite in the sense that, yeah, the elites are powerful, but they're not as business savvy. Like we were just talking about how it all boils down to marketing and using consumer data. And I think that if Musk might be a very poor engineer, but he's probably a very good marketer in the sense that he wanted to create Tesla in order to popularize car batteries. Like that was the reason he built it. And the idea behind in marketing terms was like, people have this idea that electric cars are slow and they're unsexy. So let's make a sexy electric car so we can shift the perspective, so we can eventually phase out like fossil fuel based motors. And I think that that's the ethos of every business he does. Like he does things to disrupt the system in a way that is like a functioning business. Maybe his businesses fail or whatever, but I think that ultimately he's the same kind of deal, except he knows a little bit more about how to sell and push his product without being like a tyrant.
This is a great point that you're making here, and to kind of add on to it a bit, I would liken this again to Trump. So you say, okay, listen, Tesla is a guy who's not a great engineer, but he was great at marketing. Well, Trump was not really great at business, but he sure was great at marketing. And the question becomes, what is he in the business of? Well, ultimately, Trump was in the business of marketing. He was not in the business of real estate. He
Right.
was in the business of marketing a name that if you put it on something, it was going to sell. So
True.
he was in the business of marketing a brand. Tesla is also in the business of marketing a brand because the vehicles aren't good and the rocket ships aren't good. In fact, nothing this guy produces is ever good. It all sucks. None of it's ever good, but somehow he's able to market it in a way that people still find it, like you said, sexy and good, and they want to get their hands on it. It's like, you know, some of the crazy shit that women buy, like the stupid Prada bags and stuff like that, right? It's the most useless, unfunctional thing that I've ever seen in my life. I'm like, why would you spend not, you know, what, 2,000, but whatever it is, right? Why in the world would you spend that kind of money on this thing that's totally useless? I could go for $19.99. I can get a full backpack to go hiking in, right? Why would you get this bag? Well, it has nothing to do with that.
Well,
That's them marketing. They're just
that's
marketing,
interesting.
right?
To add on to what Ivan was saying, though, is that he's saying, like, you know, the cars, it's not about the cars, because that's true, though. I never really thought about it that deeply, but he did start making all the gigafactories. So he's making all the car batteries. So regardless of whether his car sells, he can sell his car batteries to all of the manufacturers who are now also making electronic vehicles or electric vehicles, whatever.
And in relation to that point and what Andrew was saying, we were highlighting his contracts with DARPA, with various government agencies, and producing all this stuff. So the idea that he's trying to save the planet or protect us from global climate change and mass extinction, well, that's ridiculous to one extent, that he's partnered with many of the same entities that are trying to do the exact opposite.
And the fun part too is just to talk about the batteries. So, like, he wasn't even the one making the batteries. It was actually Panasonic. So I don't know if that's changed, but I know Panasonic was the one that was supplying all the batteries for the Model S and the Roadster before it.
They were, but I know he's rolling his own battery cells now.
Yeah.
I read some articles, I don't know, earlier this year.
Which is even less reason to trust him, right? It's even less reason to trust him. I mean, anything that this guy has produced has sucked. I can't think of a single product that this guy has, which is a good product, including the current X, which, by the way, the previous Twitter was better. It functioned better and was better than current X. Now, the algorithm was way worse and the suppression was way worse, but its functionality and the way that it operated, I think, was better, far better. And the intent of putting in kind of these really high detail but low volume, you know, tweets out there, that forced a person to really think about what they were going to say, right? And what it did was it also, the viewer could intake tons of information from tons of other people, and they're able to, you know, kind of get everybody's thoughts very quickly because it was forced to be summarized. I don't even think that was the intent of Twitter. I didn't even think that they thought it would work that well, but it did. But what Elon did, the very first thing he did was go, okay, let's add a long form in here. Right. But then you find out if you add in the long form, the people without the verified accounts can't even see the long form. So they only see the short form anyway. So people are kind of forced to go back to the short form anyhow. Right. There hasn't really been anything particularly innovative with X from Twitter. Nothing. And I don't see it getting better. And I don't see any features. Like, the only thing he really said that he was going to change ultimately, that would have been a big change, would have been the block feature, right? Well, we're going to take away the block feature, and he was clearly funning, right? He was just clearly funning.
He
So
mentioned something about
eyeballs.
video streaming and stuff, but we see that hasn't really panned out at all.
Well,
No,
I mean,
I
you
think,
can.
yeah, we're
I think
streaming
they had
Twitter right
Periscope
now,
before, but
the
I don't
video
know how good it is
platform,
now.
the video platform's terrible. I mean, trying to watch videos on X is pretty horrendous. You know, like, we see Tucker Carlson, he's moved his show over, but Tucker Carlson just stated a few days ago, now he's creating his own streaming platform. So how much he's even going to share on X is going to be questionable moving forward. And so, yeah, the streaming offering that, yes, you can have long form videos. We're live right now on Twitter, but the quality of the video and watching it's annoying. It's annoying to watch long form videos on Twitter.
If you want a 10-year prediction.
And not only that, but like if you try to click forward, it just makes little heart emojis and shit, right? You're like, it just sucks. None of it's good. You're right about that. And it's not that user friendly either. From the end user who is the streamer, it's not particularly user friendly. Nothing about it is great. There's nothing about current X, which is some vast improvement from old Twitter. There's less suppression. That's true, right? But I think inevitably Twitter would have had to move in that direction at least a little bit anyhow. Eventually that would have been the case, because what happens is most of these platforms, they take for granted that after they get rid of enough people, the whole platform turns to shit. An example of this would be Twitch. Twitch really had the market totally cornered on streaming. They could have given YouTube a run for their money, except they started doing the mass suppression. So what happened is people couldn't sell product placement companies didn't want to have a presence on Twitch because they couldn't sell their products, and it just ended up being a complete cluster. So eventually all of these companies end up having to loosen up a little bit. They have to by necessity. It's just that usually they do it for pornography, which is what Twitch did, right? So Twitch did, they moved towards the porno instead of the politics.
Right. I want to bring BLA on. I think Jesse Ventura might be with us tonight.
Hi, I'm Governor Jesse Ventura. These are some great patriots here. The last time I heard about Musk, it was on Trudeau Street in Hill 364 in Vietnam. And why don't you ask me about free speech? Right, because the government has been going very hard on us, and that's why right now I work for a big we'll call it Big Parma, because we need to take these stabbies. They're very important. I love the discussion here.
Well, I have a question I've always wanted to ask you, former Governor Jesse Ventura.
As I said on the set of the movie Predator, shoot. Go ahead.
Well, it was a Predator-related question. Remember that scene where you spit the tobacco on the guy's foot? That would be Arnold Schwarzenegger. Do you remember that scene?
Of course I remember that. I've got great aim.
Yeah. Did he know it was coming?
He knew exactly what was coming. That was part of my psyop. The whole thing was a psyop. I heard about how this Arnold guy had been talking about his biceps were bigger. That's just false. That's false information. I had to get him with my tobacco spit. And then I had that great line about the son of a bitch is dug in there like an Alabama tick. I created that line.
Well, I mean, that was a great line. When they killed off your character in Predator, were you upset by that?
I wasn't. I thought it was a noble death worthy of a patriot, or perhaps one of the Mongol motorcycle clubs that I hang out with down in Baja, eating Wagyu beef. You know, you guys were talking about Amazon. You can't get anything from here anymore. I ordered American flag from China. It came from China. Can you believe this? So I don't know about this Elon Musk, but my son showed me on his Palm Pilot a picture of Sarah Palin in a skimpy bathing suit. Is that what you're talking about with nude women on this internet?
Yes, that's exactly what we're referencing. One more Predator-related question, since I have you. As was rightly pointed out by this chat by Matthew, he said, you remember that line in the movie where you said, "Ain't got time to bleed." Did you feel kind of stupid and like a liar when the Predator made you bleed?
No, because listen, my blood is pure American. It's red, white, and blue. I don't bleed DNA. I don't bleed DNA. I bleed USA. Trump stole that line from me from the movie. I said it on the set.
That's all. That's all of my questions that I have. Are you still going to make a run for president of the United States?
No, everything is. Listen, I was a big supporter of Ron Paul. I dedicated my 63 documents that they don't want you to know about autobiography to him. Look what they did to him. I just don't see a point unless I can get these. You know, they've been spying on me here in the Minnesota governor's house ever since I took power. My head's only shaved because they did that to me as a psyop when I was asleep one night. They gave me Demerol one night when I was trying to sit up talking about the Iraq war. Do you want to talk about pink mist and the CIA Gateway Project?
Yes, I do.
Listen, I gotta go. My sponsors are calling me. Goodbye.
All right. Well, with that, I'm out of here too. You guys have a great night. Thanks
All
for having
right,
me on your
Andrew.
panel.
Appreciate you coming over, brother. God bless. BLA, what's up, bro?
What's up, man? Great discussion here. Love the discussion. A lot of great points about old Elon. You know, I agree with pretty much agree with your take. I mean, in terms of Musk, I mean, it's great when these people, you know, end up doing or saying something that's, you know, we see as positive, but it's like they got him off. They got AJ off in the first place. He was off in the first place. That never should have happened in the first place. I'm glad that he's back on. But like you said in many of your streams, you know, we don't need another one of these heroes. People looking to this guy as some kind of, you know, yes, he's a titan of industry. I see that, you know, and he plays kind of a Tony Stark role, but it's like looking to you know, try to emulate him as a person or whatever, or think that he's going to save you, I think is just foolish. They all, you know, a billionaire, the richest man in the world. Obviously there's a lot that has put him there and made him that way. You know, big data, government contracts. I think Starlink is, when I look at Starlink, I think, you know, Reagan Star Wars program from the 80s. It just looks like the apotheosis of that, you know, encircling the globe with you know, Brenda Densler future holographic, you know, fake and gray alien invasion weaponry, or what, you know, whatever it is, however far. And I think that it's great that he has done these things. It's great that he got, you know, that he got AJ back on, and that's good. And it's, you know, that's positive, but you know, the guy, it's like, you know, you wear a Baphomet like chest plate to your parties, and you know,
Yeah.
you're
Idol,
openly
the
talking
devil's
about
champion.
yeah, and he openly talks about like, well, there's no, you know, there's no use resisting. We need to just join our bodies with AI and, you know, upload to the Neuralink. And, you know, when I watched Terminator, I thought that Skynet was great. It was, you know, that was actually the hero, is what he's, you know, that's the type of stuff. It seems like total sci-fi, you know, villain material. But I don't know.
Yeah. I want to tell everybody who's new to the channel, subscribe. My name's David Patrick Harry. I know a lot of people just came from the Crucible. I do a lot of Orthodox apologetics and talk about various happenings in society, of which we're talking about Elon Musk, usually from an Orthodox Christian perspective. So if you enjoy this content, definitely subscribe. We have tons of this, more in the future. BLA right here, our great Jesse Ventura. He's one of the regulars. So appreciate all you guys and everybody who supported the stream. If you want to show some love, feel free to send in a super chat using Streamlabs or the Dono chat link, or you can use YouTube if you prefer.
Yeah,
and AC, bro, I want to thank you for the 10. You gifted 10 memberships, brother. Thank you so much. Anyway,
that
go ahead.
stream we just did on Master and Margarita, you know, I think if people have checked that out, you know, I think we did a pretty good deep dive into that, and it's relevant. It seems like, you know, it's 100-year-old Russian literature, but it's so relevant to now. And I think that's important. So, everybody should go back and watch all your streams again. You've done a bunch of streams analysis on Elon Musk, on AI, you know, going back for years. So everybody check that out.
Yeah, transhumanism is a bit of my forte. So Elon Musk has been on my radar for a while, but
that begs the question, BLA. I just wanted to quickly ask, what 100-year-old Russian literature doesn't apply today? Honestly.
Yeah, well, that's true. I guess the ones we're not covering on the channels. How about that? Go. Everybody go to our channels now. I just wanted to add quickly that weirdly, this sounds totally weird, but I know a guy who knows a guy who's like in investing, you know, he's an investment guy or whatever. And a couple of years ago when Elon was with, what's her name, Amber Heard, they went to dinner together in LA. And it's not really a cool story, but they spent a lot of money. Elon ordered tons of champagne. You know, it was a big to-do. And at the end, he said, somebody else get this. And he just left. And he left it up to my friend's friend to pick up the check, which was interesting. I mean, you hear that about celebs in general, and you know what it is. But he had other things to say, which I won't say here. But the thing about that somebody mentioned earlier about, you know, Elon smoking that bubonic chronic on Joe Rogan, it's like in light of the fact that, like, you know, I don't know, that fentanyl is the second biggest killer in the United States. You know, it's like, you know, I don't know, we're adults. At the same time, I think that these mega billionaire globalist dudes are into all sorts of stuff that's way worse. And that's not to, it's not to excuse or whatever,
and
but
we brought up the point that Elon's father, impregnated his stepdaughter. There's like a 42-year age difference there, and has a child by his stepdaughter.
Errol Musk.
There's some CP allegations against him. So I don't know what to think about that, but certainly interesting nonetheless.
Yeah, I think that, you guys have continuously throughout this brought up like the issue of, blackmailing and stuff. And of course, that's a reality with these big time people. And, the whole, Jeff Stein McCaffrey, that happened. We hear about this from time to time, probably by design. But of course, if you're that guy, I mean, look, what does he make? Right. It's not like selling products, it's not like advertising, that you guys have brought up and stuff. It's like, these are big contracts bought up by globalist interests and government. And every movie, for example, about going into space and like fixing a satellite, they find a nuke. They're actually fixing a nuke, right? So it just seems to me that the data and all the money, that is what props him up. It's like Tony Stark, comes out in the Marvel movies, and then we have this guy who's like in every way, like
immediately, right? Elon Musk is the real Tony Stark. Elon Musk is.
That's what I was trying to ask earlier too. While Andrew was still in here, and he was bringing up some of that stuff about how much money he loses, because I've been interested in that as well, because I kind of have followed some of his like trajectory through, and he's just gobbling up all these government contracts, and it's just kind of. Yeah, and I think that is how he's making his money, because it's like he does enough to get enough attention and to make it seem like maybe he's making these big giant steps to then go to the government and say, hey, let me get that next contract, because obviously you can see we're heading in a direction here, but the direction is kind of like, well, is it good or is it bad, or are you profitable? No, but let's just give you another contract, I guess. I don't.
Well, that's why it makes sense.
And is that basically just another way for the government to launder more money? I don't know.
Right. And that's why it makes sense that he'd be a sort of false opposition, even amongst the globalist elite, where he's just playing a game, and he's curating a following of people that view him in a certain light. And maybe he's doing certain things that we agree with, but ultimately nobody can deny that he's a transhumanist, and we're moving towards a technocracy. I mean, that's just a fact. And I don't see anything that anybody could argue saying that he's against any of it. All his companies point towards it.
Yeah, I think that the elite lets him play because he's kind of amusing for them, in the sense that he has like some ideas that they want to copy, in the sense that like really old money, they're very happy with the financialization of the world. Like they can simply invest in your company if it sounds fun. So in the sense, I think Elon Musk is like a guilty pleasure of the elites, in the sense that he can push forward their agenda better than them, so they let him play. So so in that sense, I think he's a true believer in transhumanism, and that's what makes him dangerous. But at the same time, like we have to be mindful that like it's inevitable that he's not that powerful, and like countries will eventually crack down on these tech companies because old money might invest in them, but I think they do have a lot of power, like these people like Jeff Bezos and the Peter Thiels of the world, and these kind of people, and they're kind of at odds with old money. So in that sense, I think that old money will eventually use the state to crack down on them, but we shouldn't be scandalized by the fact that these companies have a lot to do.
Do you not think old money are also transhumanist technocrats?
Yeah, I think they're Freemasons.
Is that a real distinction between transhumanists and technocrats? I mean, sure, some
exactly.
Of them are Freemasons.
I just don't think they care. I think they're hedonists, ultimately. But
I was just going to say, in terms of about the United States becoming a technocracy, the fact is the founding fathers of America set up a semi-Bonapartist technocratic empire. Like that's what it was from the beginning. Like even in Washington, like after the what you call the Constitution was established, in his own letters he refers to the United States on occasion as the empire. That's just what it was from the beginning. Like it was always, the idea of representative government, the idea that the representatives elected have the real power. It's always been a joke. That's always been a front. I mean, it's useful. Like the nice thing about a republic for those who run a society is you always have a scapegoat, and people can think they can change things by voting a different party or a different person. When in reality, the empire's policies are going to be the same through the administrations. Like, I remember, was it 2012? Like, the whole Romney versus Obama thing, and given I studied international relations, political science, and engineering, which was a trifecta that will kill you. I don't recommend it. But writing papers and doing hard math. But yeah, I remember that election. It's like, what is it that would actually be different? Like one of my professors actually had like, what actually would be different, and the answer was nothing. The fact is, like in terms of foreign policy, the CFR already set what's going to happen.
Right.
So it didn't matter which person was going to go into power. McCain versus Obama didn't matter.
You bring up a good point, and just on a practical level, I mean, the country was founded by, in Virginia, it was the Virginia Company, right? A sort of arm of East India Company. It was a old world, corporation coming over here for money purposes. And then they end up, in the new world. And so that's certainly a huge aspect of it. I think that Elon Musk ultimately, and a lot of these guys are like weird character archetypes that, you guys said that you imagine like in the Bond movies, the Smurfs group sitting around the Anglo-American round table. And they're like, this is our guy now. And this, he does this and he accomplishes this. And I don't think it's like a daily script, but there's ultimately a goal. I think that the goal is ultimately for them, Depop and transhumanism. I mean, isn't that what Elon says? Like, we got to, this world is crumbling, so we got to go to Mars, right? And form an exoplanet.
But
like,
and his big
you mean them.
His big contention with the globalist elite, if you will, is that they are more in favor of Depop, and he's more in favor of a sustainable, if not growing, our population. And so this, especially if you guys listened to the Twitter space last night, this was his big delineation between him and maybe some of the other powers that be, is that he's pro humanity, he's pro having babies, he's pro families and stuff like this. But what exactly does that mean, especially when he is objectively, based on every standard, a transhumanist? So what is, as we were talking about earlier, what does that mean to be pro-human?
Yeah, well,
just saying.
I was going to say a very small thing, that is that basically we tend to idealize sometimes our shadowy overlords, in the sense that since they have a lot of power and they can dictate a lot of the things that happen in the world, then we attribute to them an intelligence that they don't have. Actually, they're morons. And both, not only are their philosophies are stupid, but they're also pretty incompetent. But they know how to use the tried and old tactics. And they need figures like Elon Musk to renovate their arsenal of weapons to use against the populace. So they might bash him a little bit and slap him around when he gets too out of line. But ultimately, they need people like that to, let's say, make their power more effective. And they use dialectics as well. So it doesn't matter to them. Ultimately, they want to keep their power. It's all about power for them.
Agreed.
Yeah, we just give to Caesar what's Caesar's, right?
He reminds me of Hugo Drax in Moonraker. He's like the same guy, right? He's kind of like doing the same thing. He's like an amalgamation of all these different. He's South African. He's American. He's
Canadian.
He's
right?
Canadian.
His mother has 3 citizenships: South African, Canadian, and American.
Right, which in itself, it's like, okay, fine. That's, I guess you could say, that's not unusual. If you were a normal, a so-called like normal person, in like if you were in Northern Ireland, you'd have a UK passport, an Irish passport, and maybe your grandmother's Canadian. But that's not this guy, right?
Right.
This guy's Wharton School of Business, Pretoria University, Queen's University, leaves all that, PayPal, SpaceX, everything's, like you said, X, which Jamie, shouts out to Jamie, has done.
Shout out to Jamie Henshaw.
yeah,
Go follow her if you guys haven't heard of her.
A great analysis on that. X meaning a way out of, right? He's constantly sort of talking about Mars, but in the meantime, it's all just encircling the globe with Starlink. Total, panopticon, human brain interface with Neuralink, human trials. So it's like yeah, he's not an engineer, he's not a physicist, but he has knowledge of those things, and he's great for business. And all of his shenanigans like they make that happen. They always attract attention in the way that these people always do.
Yep.
Well, I don't think any of the stuff, I don't think any of the things that were happening, that scientists who were brought over from like World War II and things like that, and the MK Ultra, I don't think any of that stuff ever stopped. Yeah, I don't think any of that ever stopped. And I don't know who was saying it earlier. I think it was BLA or Ivan that was saying that basically, you know, Elon Musk is kind of the play toy and he's kind of the puppet, but he's also the fall guy too. So they can blame all these other things that may be happening behind the scenes on his technology and say, oh yeah, well or that we discovered this thing and it was based off of this, but it's really because of the things that are going on behind closed doors. And if they screw it up, then, you know, they can also blame it all on him too. So it's kind of like, yeah, you get to be in the position, and then you also have to take the blame for everything if it all goes to shit too. So
yeah, I think that's a good point. We got a few super chats. Let me catch up real quick. Our brother Frankie D throws in $5 and says the real question we ought to ask is Jay Dyer a friend or foe? Ha ha ha. I love the documents. Jay Dyer is a Republic of Congo operative and is playing the long-term Mexican standoff double cross game. Alex Jones, God bless you guys. Well, thank you, Frankie D. And he threw in another one for $5 says Bay's lit. God bless. And
peace, homeboy.
Over on the Dono chat, New World Disorder throws in $25. Thank you so much, brother. He says, I'll pay my dues. You know, I like the topic when I can't stay quiet. Thanks for your patience. Thanks for the stream. Stay frosty. Well, thank you so much, New World Disorder. God bless you, brother. Really appreciate it. Jay Dyer says, ouch. And then, and Jay's getting ready to go live, guys. So everybody go over to his channel once we hop off here. We had a few more super chats. Mr. Meeseeks throws in $1.99, says, been wary of Musk. Appreciate the dialogue. Thank you very much, Mr. Meeseeks. And then $5 came in from Matt and says, you got the money Andrew lost out on because of those progressive freaks. Video games are for children. Well, thank you very much, Matt. I could totally agree with that. And Tatiana, our Orthodox sister, throws in $5 and says, my opinion is the Antichrist will be someone like Trump or Elon. It's later than we think, brothers and sisters. So true. Thank you so much, Tatiana, for your support. And then Jacob Slaggle throws in $1.99, says, thanks, Andrew, for helping me find the channel. Well, thank you, Jacob, for coming over here. And a major appreciation to Andrew and the Crucible crew for coming over here. And Jacob throws in another super chat for $4.99, says, it won't let me become a member on my phone, so I'll do my part with super chat. Thank you, Andrew, for helping me find these guys. Well, thank you, Jacob. Really appreciate it. So we have been going for about 3.5 hours. You guys have any concluding remarks on the topic or anything that was said? Feel free.
I do. I think like what Andrew was talking about earlier with the X in the market later, like with the cryptocurrency and everything. I was thinking about like what he also said about data and how valuable data is.
Yeah.
If there is any future cryptocurrency that kind of dominates the internet other than Bitcoin or Ethereum, like I know that the WEF was wanting to back Ethereum, I think, or something like that. But even then, if there's another type of coin that Elon would make or would latch himself onto if it got popular, if they could get that coin's value to fluctuate with the collection of data, like it could be attached to like data. Because like one thing that Jay Dyer's talked about why cryptocurrency is so valuable, like Bitcoin, is because there is no way to inflate it or deflate it, right? So like if they could find a way to inflate or deflate cryptocurrency, then they could move on to eliminate a state's power to really control people, because like the state operates off of like only its own currency, or you know what I mean, like America's the dollar, all these other places, and they're subject to those economies. But once you get to this cryptocurrency, it's like only off of how valuable the coin is, right?
Well, they're trying to manipulate. They're trying to use cryptocurrencies in countries. You see, there's some countries that are kind of testing the waters, and I think they're trying to find a way to do exactly what you're talking about.
Isn't
They
it El
find a way to
Salvador
play it.
where they're
Yeah.
yeah,
The
El
same way
Salvador's
they're
president.
Yeah, the same way they can do right now with the Federal Reserve, they want to be able to do that. And as long as they can do that with cryptocurrency, they're going to usher it in. But until they can make sure they can keep it all under wraps, and they don't want anything to do with it. That's why you see a lot of countries like banning it or having it under like tight restrictions, you know.
Wait till they build that city, the line in Saudi Arabia, and Elon gets the contract for the Elon coin, right? Which is tied to your social credit and your UBI. Wasn't he a UBI guy?
Yeah, I think he still is.
He still is. Okay.
I think so. Last time I heard him talk about it.
I remember when he went on, not like I watch SNL, but he went on SNL and tanked Dogecoin. You remember that? He was like, Dogecoin,
Yeah.
right, or whatever. Just in 1 second, it's over.
Yep. Anyway, do you guys have some final remarks? Jose, BLA, American Nacho.
Yeah.
I'll just say to tack onto whatever the super chats were. I also came over here from Andrew's channel. I was watching him, and that panel was insufferable. Just a bunch of leftists talking about the most obscure shit I've ever heard in my life. So,
Not
but I was
me.
glad
I've
that
been
he
a
came over
long-term
here,
supporter.
and there was actually a nice conversation happening. You know, things that are
Well, I
more
appreciate you
important.
hopping on American Nacho, and do subscribe. Come back in the future. We
I did,
appreciate you. This is we promote Orthodox Christianity and talk about every topic you can think of from that general perspective. So that's kind of what we do. And I'm
currently
finishing
in
up my
a
PhD.
Orthodox arc.
Oh, okay, excellent.
Yeah,
Excellent.
I'm Mennonite church is what I attend right now, but I've been slowly kind of researching Orthodoxy, and I'm pretty certain I'm going to convert, but I'm still researching.
Well, we'd love to have you, man. That sounds glory to God for that. Really appreciate it.
I personally know a lot of Menodox. It really isn't that big of a jump compared to most Protestants.
That's what I'm kind of seeing, yeah. So,
Jose,
Pretty
what are
cool,
your
though.
final marks, man? You always got good insights.
Yeah. So, I mean, my career has been actually my entire career in terms of how I support myself, how I support my family has been big data. And I was trained as a metallurgist, but you know, all that stuff. I literally was in Pittsburgh summer 2012, and I watched a bunch of construction guys taking apart abandoned steel foundries and steel mills, etc., putting them on trains, and asked them where they were going that summer, and they said, "Oh, they're going to China." So I took the hint, and software's where I ended up in, and big data has been how I've been able to make money since everything else I want to do gets outsourced. But
yeah,
in terms of like AI, and this is the irony. So you know, you talk about Elon cornering AI. So if you look at AI, someone mentioned about how like the U.S. you know Operation Paperclip. So in the case of AI, practically all the leading AI engineers in the United States are Russian, and the fact is, so practically all the AI research done in the United States is done. So there's two ways you can do AI. You can do it for effect or for a procedure. Effect is where you give the appearance of something that's intelligent. You're trying to essentially you just want it to ape something like a human, or ape intelligence. Whereas procedure is like you're actually designing it to think. Practically everything here in the stateside is for effect. Sorry, no, yeah, for effect. Whereas in Russia, there's a lot of hints and suspicions that they've actually have AI that's done for procedure. One of them being the Lancet drone, with how the Lancet drone does swarm tactics. And I actually saw an interview with the guy who invented the Lancet drone, and he had a very. It's interesting because I've read stuff internally from like friends from DoD, etc., and they're talking about how like they suspect that thing is actually using AI for procedure, which is like the holy grail that the U.S. hasn't been able to attack. And what the guy said in the interview, the Lancet inventor, was that because he was asked about it, and he said artificial intelligence doesn't exist. This is a programmatically determined weapon. It's the idea that there's an intelligence to it, to something that's essentially just deep learning at scale. There's nothing, there is no consciousness to it, and he was very explicit about that. And I just found it to be very interesting because I have this deepening suspicion that the American elite have put so much hope on what this tech can do and what they think it can become, and they're highly dependent on brain drain from what is now a resurgent rival who is growing far more rapidly. I mean, he's going to keep growing,
Right.
whereas the U.S. is going to be shrinking, and the West is going to be shrinking. So it's I just find it to be fascinating in terms of I really don't see the Anglo-Americans establishment's long-term plans panning out. They really screwed the pooch in the last decade, frankly. Yeah, and in terms of like 10-year predictions, one thing that you can definitely see is, especially for anything that's wants to be traditional, essentially freemium model will never work for that, and the freemium model is actually going to die. That's been my bet for years, and so I've helped build stuff or been associated with stuff that was subscription based. Like the future especially for independent content creators, as DPH can attest to, subscriptions and selling merch, and of course Andrew said that earlier too.
Yep.
That is the future. If you want to build something that isn't favored by the establishment, the fact is, we're not in a nation like China or Russia that values, has a leadership that values tradition in any sense, any sense of the word. It is wholly transgressive, wholly revolutionary in everything it does. So if you want to build something that's going to be traditional, you essentially have to build your own. You need people to give you money. That's the only way you're going to do it. Your own fans, people who actually consume your content. Yeah, that's all I got in terms of that. I have no hope in any human. What do you call it? Especially no human within the American elite. I don't see any of them. I actually don't even see one who really understands, even taking like whatever faction Tucker Carlson is a front for. None of them have a grasp or understanding of what is coming.
What do you maybe we'll end on this one. What are you guys' thoughts about Tucker Carlson?
Similar to Elon. He's
Elon?
he's one of the biggest like media figures that I'm the least worried about. I'd put it that way.
Yeah,
I still don't trust a lot of them, but it's like lower on the list.
I can agree with that.
Things that I dig about Tucker. One, he had Jay on. Two, helped with.
Did he really?
Yeah.
It was actually the last episode on Fox before he got canceled.
I gotta find that then.
Yep. So
Jay dresses up as Dr. Klaus Schwab and goes around Nashville terrorizing people.
That sounds amazing.
Did the interview with AJ, and also to give him credit, remember those interviews like 15-20 years ago when people would go up to Tucker and ask him like, what do you think about AJ, right? What do you think about loose change and all this stuff? And he'd be like, it's crazy. It's it's unbelievable. Yep. And to his credit, he admits that he was in the wrong about those things, and that at the very least he's open to listening to people and talking to them, and so I give him credit for that. Also, he's a waspy East Coast prep like me, and used to hang out at the UVA Wahoo Wah parties with his Patagonia on, bro. So he's
has he said like or what denomination he is? Because I think he says that he's a Christian, he's
he's Episcopalian.
Old school WASP. Like he's part of the old school WASP faction, which amazingly has managed to reassert control of the FOMC. So you get this weird thing where you have the neocons who are of a certain tribe from a certain country overseas that control the entirety of the federal government at this point. I mean, if you just look at all this list of the secretaries of the various, state departments, but then you have the Federal Reserve and you have, Jerome Powell there, which that's a whole different story. Don't want to go down, but like in terms of
we also have the same name.
All I know is the faction that he's a part of, whatever old money waspy faction that is literally the only section of the U.S. government that does not want to destroy the Orthodox Church. So that's, because I mean, I remember Jim
that seems like a good thing.
Shared about talk that he had where we got Mike Pompeo when he was brought in by Trump. Like Mike Pompeo openly said that the number one goal of the U.S. State Department is to break the back of the Orthodox Church. And you can see that in terms of all of America's policy decisions since the 90s, with it, from the wars in Serbia onward.
Yep, that's what I get ready to say. Right around the
JP Morgan and all the American elites who funded the Bolsheviks. It's the Orthodox Church has always been the goal for most factions within the United States government. And so I mean, in terms of like, if I had to pick like which one would I rather win of the win control of the American empire, then whichever faction it is behind that Tucker's part of, like, sure, I'd prefer that. But yeah,
do you guys think he'll ever actually try to get involved in like a political office anywhere?
I don't know. If I was him, I wouldn't. I don't know what. Yeah, but
it seems easier to just continue to be a commentator, right?
Yep. BLA, what are your final comments on the topic or anything that was said?
Well, I think that Sam Hyde made a great point about AI, which is that very astute point about it, which is that, there's sort of two ways of thinking about it, which is that one, it's, so advanced, it's taking over everything. And the other is that, nothing ever seems to work. Like, when you get a new phone and all of a sudden it's broken, right? It always happens. There's always a malfunction. And that is kind of a statement about technology and its progress. The iPhone hasn't, like, there's no major change in years, and all this kind of stuff. But I think that what Sam said about AI was that one thing that it's not going to do, at least in the near future, is be able to replace jobs that require like physical manipulation with the hands.
Right.
So, for instance, a guy has got to go up and replace something on like a magnetic power line or something. It takes a human being with discernment to be able to have the skills to do that. But the real problem now is that there's a lack of young people that are doing those jobs, and all the older guys that are doing them are are in the process of retiring, and that there's just a lack of anything that motivates young, especially men, to go into those jobs. They just don't have it, or they don't even want it in the first place. And we need those. I think that, I agree with your take on AI that you've stated for a long time, which is that it is frightening in terms of like the overall, the kind of weird like voice that comes from AI, and we know it's programmed and all this stuff, but it just seems logical that in the future, whenever that is, that the transhuman thing, the AI mixed with that it would be an antichrist type of, technology is going to have something to do with it. You read any book or watch any film, and those are good ways of looking at all this in parallel, dealing with demons and demonic energy just in general. And it's always electrical. It's always power based, or, future tech based. There's just some sort of meld there. So it's interesting. But on the other hand, I think that it's possible, like we're here now talking and we do this, we use these things, but that in the future, there will be some sort of thing where people just want to go low tech, and not just like, getting a homestead, but like a big thing,
right?
Where they just forsake that altogether. So that's sort of my take.
I agree with that. Gentlemen, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate both of you. Want to say Jay threw in $5 and says the mod questioning me over Tucker is ignorant that we helped convert his producer to orthodoxy. That's a fact. I met him in Nashville, and he works for Tucker Carlson, and through online apologetics like Jay and Father Deacon and hopefully myself, he actually converted to the Orthodox Church, and that's how Jay got onto the Tucker Carlson show. So anybody thinking that he is subverted is ignorant. So that is not true at all. I can vouch because I was actually there and met him. So anyways, and then the last super chat, Joseph Newton throws in $4.99. Thank you so much, Joseph. Really appreciate you. And Frankie D threw in 2 super chats. He says, I'm going to blow this conspiracy wide open. Jay Dyer expose. Congolese operative stemming from the Gnostics who fled Byzantine to the Congo in the late 8th century. They established a secret society who controls every other secret society in the world. So there you go. If you want to know the secret, that's the real secret. And Frankie D threw in another $5. Thank you so much, Frankie D. He says, there's a guy I read who puts out articles. He made an insight that I thought was on the mark. He said that in declining societies of the past, the elite increasingly relied on oracles. He believes that the current elite hope for an AI analogous to the oracle. So that's pretty interesting. I wouldn't be surprised with that. But anyways, we're getting off here. Want to thank everybody who supported, everybody who joined the stream. Go over to Jay Dyer's channel. He's getting ready to go live. Really appreciate all you guys. Thank you so much. And I will be back Thursday with another stream. As always, until then, God bless.